Yo! What's up, everybody? Let's get this party started. Haha. Happy Saturday! What's up? Yo, what's up, Steve? I'm gonna be finishing up an article live. I gotta do some art. Talk about it as I make it. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're ready. I don't know what I'm doing, but that's how magic happens. I spent hours making this today. Look how long this conversation is. Oh. Ooh. All the research. Well, all these resources I use. A lot of them are from previous articles. I use them again because it's continuous. Don't get mad at me if I don't pay close attention to the chat. I'm trying to get an article done too. You guys want to watch YouTube videos? Oh, there it is. Good. If this is anyone's first stream, I usually take a little bit to get warmed up. My ADHD. But once I'm in the focus, I'm in the focus. So I'm trying to... Which one do I want? Whoops. This one's gonna be different, guys. I'm excited about this one. Which one's the best one? I honestly really like these two. Mm. There are holes in reality and in donuts. I'm coming over to say hi. Oh, wow. You look terrible. Huh. I got way too many tabs open. What's up, everybody? You're watching me make another article. So, you read the truth is now a national security threat. Yay! It's a fun one. This is where I make more edits as I go. Like, I wanna do a call. I always like making callbacks to my favorite articles. I put them in like last minute. Welcome, welcome everybody. Oh, this song's a little crazy. I'll play something a little bit more normal. Okay, okay. See, this is why I need my exoskeleton. They're telling me not to add the callback. I thought it would be good here though. But it's because the topics are so dense. I feel like I should have definition cards. I guess I already did in this article.
Sedative as I.
Oh, that's a cute one. Ah, I like that. That's wicked cute. They're both cute. Alright, those citations. Live my life the way I want to, every day's the same. Sometimes I can say, let it out. Oh, that's a good one again. Ah! I don't even know what's the best one. I think this one looks the coolest now. Hey. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Yeah, this is AI bleed right here. You guys wouldn't even notice. But I like to be consistent with my character writing. This ending is supposed to be Rika. Rika doesn't care about chocolate mooncake. That's Zoe. Ugh. I'm gonna yell at my AI. Rika doesn't care about mooncakes. I just read the whole thing. Welcome everybody. Hey Jeanette. I'm just working on an article live, showing off how I do it. People can not read it, I know. Let's see, can I make it bigger? I'm using anti-gravity, which is this program that's usually used for computer coding, but I'm using it to brainstorm articles. I pretty much repurposed it.
This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path.
There we go. A little better. Just want to show you guys I'm working.
This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood. It's murder. Was it worth it? This is your fault. You chose this path. Taste of blood.
Taste of blood, it's murder, was it worth it?
Taste of blood.
I like that song.
It's murder.
That song slaps.
Murder. Was it worth it? It's murder. Was it worth it? It's murder. Was it worth it?
Not bad, not bad. No, it made Rika. It's always hard to get Google to make Zoe. Taste of blood, it's murder, was worth it. Taste of blood. Was it worth it? You chose Pat. There we go. Oh god, no, I don't like that one. That's a good one. If people don't know who Zoe is, character from League of Legends, and she's super silly. That's why I like her. She's just funny, like whimsical. One of the most whimsical characters. And it's ironic because of the game she comes from, which is like a... I just reconnected. My bad. What's up, Jason? I keep finding myself in have? What does that even mean? This is Zoe. She's adorable.
Oh, I'm Lux. I'm so tall, and all the boys like me. How do you like them sparkles? I want to steal you. I'm not saying Lux isn't a good girlfriend, but you could do better. Do I like you or chocolate mooncake more? So
The chocolate mooncake.
Hey, I might like
So this is a character interaction between two characters because the game has like over 200 of them.
reasons.
And she's supposed to have a crush on that character.
Hello, hi, hey, whatever. I'm gonna
Use.
train this one.
They look the same, right?
Cosmic Space Dragon?
I think they look the same.
So arrogant. I liked your stars, but you're not the big deal you thought you were. Oh, Space Dragon should have gotten back on his leash. I'm gonna miss that Cosmic Dragon. Oh look, butterflies!
Oh look, butterflies.
Said he made all the stars, and the humans believed him. Are you made of rainbows? So cute.
Are you made of
You're
rainbows?
so fluffy. Oh, so cute, so cute. Adorable.
Okay, that's enough. I'll put something else on though. Oh, that's not the... Damn, my internet keeps dropping.
Man, I haven't had a giggle quite like the Afro Man trial has delivered. I have been getting tickled all day watching this trial and catching up with what I had missed previously on Dragon Ball Z from yesterday in the trial. It's just concluded, spoiler alert, Afro Man completely won. And I mean, it was a complete victory here. He got him with the Mortal Kombat fatality in the courthouse here. The fucking police officers that were suing him are licking the toilet bowl clean after he shit all over them. I'll show you the clip of the ruling in a moment here. For those that don't know, Afro Man's house was raided a few years back under suspicion of kidnapping and narcotics. They found nothing. It was a complete sham. It was a load of barnacles. And Afro Man had security cameras set up on his property, so he caught all of this on film, and so he started to use some of that footage to make music, insulting them, ridiculing them, making fun of them, turning this misery into some boner jams for his art. And the officers that he has made songs about and made fun of got really upset. They got super sore about it, so they filed a defamation lawsuit against him. And the lawsuit has made it all the way to court, and now it's settled, but we got to witness what has to be one of the most entertaining court cases ever broadcast.
In my opinion, I fucked his wife doggy style. He said it.
It's so
I
ridiculous.
don't know how the jury just didn't erupt into laughter numerous times throughout this case. There are so many moments just like that. So he has made a lot of songs and a lot of like clips all about this raid and making fun of these officers. And I can't believe at no point throughout this process did the officers think, this is a bad idea. More people are going to find out about this. And that's exactly what happened. Huge Streisand effect here. So many people are learning about Afro Man and the new songs he made about these officers through this defamation trial that's gone to court. So now the songs are blowing up all over again. So like, will you repair my doors? Over 9 million views. Lemon Pound Cake is probably gonna start charting on fucking Billboard at this point. This one's going nuclear right now. And it's in part a large thanks to these officers being such fucking bumbling, drooling imbeciles that they actually tried to sue Afro Man for defamation because he hurt their feelings through making fun of them in these songs. I gotta tell you, sports fans, if the officers were upset before, they're inconsolable now. Unless they have a humiliation fetish,
Why is it
they're
lagging?
probably not feeling too great about how this one's gone down, because everybody is making fun of them even more so now. And honestly, this whole case is fucking ridiculous. Like, anyone should look at this and obviously not be on the side of the officers here, because this is so absurd. Really, Afro Man said it best while in court.
Fact, they never should have came to my house in the first place. Fact, if they hadn't came to my house, they wouldn't have put themselves on the video camera.
If nobody's seen the Afro Man stuff yet, you got to stick around and watch this.
All of this is their fault, and they have the audacity to sue me. These people and you are the predators and the victim at the same time.
So what they did, searching your house, gave you the right to do everything you
Under the circumstance that I got freedom of speech, after they run around my house with guns and kick down my door, I got the right to kick a can in my backyard, use my freedom of speech, turn my bad times into a good time. Yes, I do. And I think I'm a sport for doing so, because I don't go to their house, kick down their doors, flip them off on their surveillance.
I don't want random characters. Why is it doing that?
Amen. I think that about sums it up. He has the freedom of speech to
Stupid
make fun
AI.
of these officers. They are public officials. They went onto his property, breaking his shit, apparently even disconnected some of the security cameras, which I feel like that should be completely illegal to disable.
Right?
lawfully put up
It
security
should be
cameras around
illegal.
one's own home. I think, and it seems court agrees, he was well within his rights to be making fun of these officers and using the footage of that raid in the subject of his songs, making fun of them, joking around, whatever he was doing with that music, using them. There should have never been a defamation case that went this far in the first place, but the fact that it did was a fucking slam dunk for comedy. So, let's dive into some of the highlight moments here from the court case.
So you're claiming that is the defamation with your wife.
Mr. Walter.
You're solely being painted in a false light due to
Oh, that's
Mr.
epic.
Walters saying he had sex with your wife.
Mr. Walters does have sex with his wife. Mr. Foreman doesn't.
Oh my God. So,
Yeah.
what just happened, right?
You're claiming that
So they're trying to sue Afro Man because Afro Man made songs talking shit about the police officers who raided his house and destroyed some of his property because of a warrant a judge signed for no good reason. I could explain why it's no good reason. You could take my word for it too, but let's just say it was a stupid enough reason that he could make songs talking shit about them, and it falls under parody. Like, and this dude was just asked, is it true that Afro Man made a song about fucking your wife? Actually, he didn't ask that, but it's in that context. But what he asked was, does Mr. blah 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 have sex with his wife? And he's like, yes, he does, because that's me. But the prosecutor asked the wrong question.
That is the defamation statement, is that he said he had sex with your wife.
And does it.
So you're solely being painted in a false light due to Mr. Walters saying he had sex with your wife.
Now
Mr.
it looks
Walters does
better.
have sex with his wife. Mr. Foreman doesn't.
Good catch on that.
Yeah.
So you're claiming that is the defamation statement, is that he said he had sex with your wife.
Yes.
Okay. And that's painted you in a false light.
It's caused tremendous pain in my life.
Now it looks cool.
I'll get to that. We have to go through false light first. So does it paint you in a false light?
Yes, that my wife is cheating on me with Mr. Foreman.
But we all know that's not true, correct?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Fucking plot twist of the century. Game
I
of
don't
Thrones
know.
writers could never. The subversion of my expectations during this segment cannot be overstated. My jaw was on the floor. So I was already kind of giggly, kind of kicking my feet in my little chair when he was like, listen here, bub. Mr. Walters does have sex with his wife. Mr. Foreman doesn't. Mr. Walters, me, does have sex with his wife. Wrong, if you needed to know.
He explains it better than I do.
Yeah. And then, when he's like, so, yeah, sorry about that, misspoke. So, the defamation is, you know, Mr. Foreman doesn't have sex with your wife. And we all know that's
a
untrue.
cool one. I like
and he's
that.
like, I don't know. The lawyer was stunned. Like, the lawyer just went radio silent. I think actually blue screened when Randy Walters, this is Randy Walters, by the way, I forgot to mention his name, star of Afro Man's hit song, Randy Walters.
Oh,
is
that's
a son
epic
of a
too.
bitch. So he's now on the stand, and he had a crazy mic drop moment when the lawyer's like, and we all know the claim is untrue about him having sex with your wife, and Randy's like, I don't know.
I don't know.
So it seems like he actually thinks
It's kind of sad.
Afro Man might have fucked his wife or something.
Is-
So now he's on stand. And
it's
it
that
gets
awkward
worse from here. It looks like
laughing.
he starts to get angry at his wife.
Where, like, you know, you
about-
shouldn't be
about the
laughing.
claim.
But
Wait, you don't know if your wife's cheating on you or not?
You want to go there?
No, I just want to ask that question because you said we don't know. I just
Been
need
with
the
that
answer.
woman since middle school.
I know.
I would hope she wouldn't. But you know what? Once somebody puts it out there for their fun and entertainment, it's out there. And it's a problem.
So it's something we cannot verify the truth of? Is it a thing that can be verified, true or false?
Ask your client.
He thought he was playing chess, but he was actually just playing with his own butthole. I don't know what strategy Randy Walters was cooking up there in the noodle, but this is stunning stuff right now. He was giving him like a layup. He's like, all right, so the claim is untrue, right? And he's like, I don't know. I would hope my wife isn't cheating on me. We've been together for fucking years, but now that he's made a song about having sex with my wife, well, maybe he is. And maybe she's cheating on
crazy.
me. And maybe I hate her for it. We'd have to ask Afro Man about that. Because now it's put out there and now it's giving me a lot to think about. Like, it looks like he starts to stew, like steam there about it. I really don't know what happened there, but oh my goodness gracious, when I tell you I was laughing, I was belly laughing when this guy started saying that. And you could hear the lawyer kind of switch on to like okay, this is weird, but I'll play along mode, where he's like, okay, so you're saying we can't verify whether or not this is like a true or false claim, it's not verifiable info? Because if he's gonna try and say that this is defamatory and then turn around and say that he doesn't know if it's true or not, how the fuck can you say it's defamatory? Like, it's an outrageous tactic? I don't know what else to call it, from Randy Walters here. It was mind-boggling.
she's freaking. It's so awkward.
As you can probably gather from the song here, this is an officer involved in the raid. Her name is Lisa. According to Afroman, she even disconnected one of his surveillance cameras. I bet she's really regretting not bringing a fucking EMP device there to blow them all out, so that way, you know, the songs never got made. But here she is taking the stand in court, and boy howdy. So they're playing the Lick 'em Low Lisa song, which is one of Afroman's tracks dedicated to her. He made songs for like every single officer in the raid. So they're playing her song, her ballad, and she starts crying during it. And they play the whole song as she is like, you know, tearing up. I don't think they're legitimate tears. I think these are crocodile tears designed to try and garner sympathy from the jury, like, oh, look at the toll this has taken on her. So I think that's a little bit of acting there, and trust me, I know acting when I see it. I don't like to usually bring this up all that often, but I actually starred in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 as District 8 hospital helper. Not a big deal, I don't really think about it that much anymore. Point is, I know when someone is playing a character, and right now she's playing the sobbing, traumatized officer who is being unjustly made fun of in a song, a very silly track. Like, it's ridiculous. They play the whole song too. They sit her right there like it's a fucking Fine Bros React segment, and they make her listen and watch the entire thing. I don't understand why, to be honest with you. I feel like he probably could have just played like the first minute, maybe minute and a half, and I think the message gets across. It's a song making fun of her. Talking about like how Lisa eats a lot of pussy and, you know, not taking her job all that seriously. Like, I feel like you probably don't need to play out the whole song, but the fact that they did is comedic gold. So the cameraman even pulls off it there for a little bit just to show like the whole scene in the courtroom. And I'm very curious what the jury was doing. Like, maybe they were stomping their feet and snapping their fingers to the track, because it kind of makes you want to groove a little bit. It's got just like a real like classic feel to it. And then it pans to Afro Man. Somebody give this cameraman a raise. That is incredible camera work right there. As you can still hear Lisa sniffling and trying to get more tears out, it pans to Afro Man as the song is still playing, by the way, and he is just sitting there staring a hole through her. He is just unflinching, just staring at her. I erupted into laughter with that camera pan to Afro Man. And now, it doesn't stop there. As she's still on the stand, they didn't just play the track or anything. They also just started playing some clips that he made making fun of her. Almost as like a non sequitur. They just kind of pull it out of nowhere. Like, can you pull up another insult here real quick? This the jury's gonna love this one.
Go to the next one. Which number is this?
Number 21, and it's a video.
Lieutenant, look at Low Lisa. Stop looking at pussy back there. That's the problem. You always look at pussy and you don't even know how many pussies you licked. You don't even know how many video cameras you have disconnected.
What number? That was 21?
Yes.
Did you see that video when it was posted?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to the next one.
Yes, next one, please. They got a whole folder here to go through. They got her posted up there like it's a Comedy Central roast. They didn't even like go in there and really talk about it all that much. It's just, yeah. Did you see this one when it was posted? Yes, Your Honor. Did you make sure to leave it a like and a thumbs up? Did you leave a comment as well for engagement? Okay, just checking. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I get why it's there, trying to show like, you know, he's insulting her a lot or like defaming her by making fun of her a lot. But like, these are just short clips of him taking the piss, he has a right to do that. Like, all you're doing now is just showing a bunch of insults directly to the person being insulted and maybe making some people on the jury laugh. Like, truly incredible strategy, I've got to say. Again, like, all of this hoopla with the defamation lawsuit from the officers have done nothing but further humiliate the officers and put a bigger spotlight on it.
Sean, you were called Officer Poundcake by Mr. Foreman?
Multiple times.
You were
received hundreds of pound cakes at work.
The pound cake guy.
Okay. And the context of that name comes from a music video that Mr. Foreman created, correct?
I don't know where he got it at, but you'd have to ask him that question.
Well, I'm going to play what's marked. About it there. So you've seen Exhibit P, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would admit that you with the glasses walking by a lemon pound cake on the counter?
Yes.
To be honest, this is probably the best promo any artist could ever hope for. They played like all of his greatest hits here from this whole saga directly to the people he was making fun of, and left in all of like the links and the promo and like the calls to action pushing to Afro Man's socials. Like, you could not pay for this kind of marketing. It's too effective. Like, oh my god. So they play the entire Lemon Pound Cake song to Officer Pound Cake, and then they're like, yeah, so that's you, right? That's why they call you Pound Cake, brother. And he's like, oh. Like, oh, this whole trial was amazing. And thankfully, it has a happy ending as well. The cherry on top of the Lemon Pound Cake. Afro Man won. The First Amendment won.
In all circumstances, the jury finds in favor of the defendant. No plaintiff verdict prevailed. So the matter will be concluded with defense verdicts. Thank you, Mr. Klingler. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Thank you to the court staff and the Sheriff's Department for security in the building. And we'll go ahead and stand in adjournment.
You
Debate my grandpa. Can you debate my grandpa?
Yo,
All right, for
debate my
sure.
grandpa.
I'll debate them.
My birthday was in 1949, so I'm old enough.
Oh yeah, no, I believe that. I just need to make sure because people can click on. I'm pretty sure your grandson's account. So.
I'm
Yeah.
not a TikToker. I'm not used to this. First time I've ever done this. But my grandson said you're talking about Trump, and yeah, he tries to egg me on about Trump frequently, and so I'm a Trump fan. I'm an old guy, and Trump is the first presidential candidate I ever donated money to. So for me, I'm not a rich guy, so that's a big deal. I think a lot of him. I know he's had personal problems in his lifestyle. Some of his lifestyle things are not the same as mine. I'm a Latter-day Saint, very active in my church, and so I don't necessarily stand for some of the things that he might have, especially in his youth. But like Cyrus, I believe he's the guy for the time.
Okay. So, like, is there any like policies of Trump's that you like in specific?
Well, I especially like that he's going into Iran.
Okay.
Being an old guy, I've seen the last 47 years of what Iran has done. And it's been very disappointing to me that this country has just let it happen. It really hurts me to know that, fortunately, nobody I know was over there when they blew up the place, the embassy or where they were. So that's a good thing. But I did have friends in the service that didn't make it out, and so I have a great deal of compassion for them. So this is great. I also do not believe that men who want to be women, and I don't care if they want to be women, that's their business, but they shouldn't be able to compete in sports.
I don't
against
care,
real women.
but I care.
Okay. Well,
He
I
says-
do think
that's a big deal.
I do think that trans women are women, and that there's essentially no trans women that are dominating in women's sports. And after multiple years of HRT, there's no real reason to say that, in that circumstance, that they should be restricted from playing. There's really no impact on society as a whole. Like, there's
you're-
really
you're
no
mistaken.
examples of trans women you'd be able to point to that are dominating in women's sports.
That's not true. There,
Can you
there
give
are
me two
many
examples?
Well, unfortunately, I cannot. I'm not at a computer where I can look it up, but there are a number of college athletes and even some high school athletes who have lost first place because a trans woman took that from them.
Yeah, but like I don't think people can ever name circumstances when they say that this is true.
I know.
And like
I
these
agree.
are not affected by national
I,
policies.
you know what
Like,
pisses me off about this guy? He won't debate anybody who's not a Trump supporter. Right? How can he expect to improve his worldview if he just argues people who he disagrees with, like, completely? Like, I understand to talking to people to get a challenge, but you can build more when you try to discuss people where you have disagreements in certain areas. You don't need to. It makes it obvious to me that he's just trying to make more money. But, like, to each their own. I try to make money sometimes, but I'm not going to go partisan because of it.
when Donald Trump never instituted a policy that specifically would have affected this. Harris wasn't going to pass a policy on this. This is local jurisdiction.
I
the
make
specific,
money to try
like,
to spend money on this.
sports commissions that will deal with the determinations in terms of whether or not they want policies on this. Private companies will do that. It's not going to be the federal government, right? Like, that's not something that really affects things, like, in terms of a federal
Well,
government
right
standpoint.
now-
So I don't understand how voting for Trump versus Harris is going to affect anything differently in terms of sports in this country.
Right now, Trump is pushing a bill called the SAFE Act that is also including no mutilation of children under the 18 to change their sex, and no men.
Yeah, no one's
who are
advocating for surgery for children.
Say what?
No one's advocating for surgery for children. But can I ask you this question real quick? If a man walked into the changing rooms of naked women while they're changing without their consent, would you say that you would ever vote for them for president if you knew that they have done this?
I like that picture.
I don't know. That's not something I'm really prepared to answer the question of.
Like,
I
for
know
example,
Trump- I
if you
know
knew
Trump-
that Donald Trump himself, like, say, for example, bragged about walking into the changing rooms of naked women while they're changing without their consent, would you say that would be a reason to stop supporting Trump?
My first top of the answer is no, I would not. I don't believe he's done that, but I have watched him for the last 10 years, what he has done, and that's what I'm basing everything on.
Okay. So even if Donald Trump has literally sexually exploited women directly himself and admitted to it, you'd still support him. So I guess, like, it's not like you're trying to protect women here specifically with these policies. So I guess, like, what specific policies do you like of his that he's influenced to get passed that, say, have benefited your life or, like, people in general?
Well, for one thing, I'm old, and he has cleaned up in his first term. I'm sorry, I spilled a bunch of stuff on the floor, so I'm cleaning it up as I'm talking to you.
You're good.
In his first term, he fixed the VA system, the VA hospital system. It's wonderful. You can't believe how good it is now to go to the VA. It's simply amazing. He has strengthened our military. Now, I'm ex-military. I'm a veteran. So I have some appreciation for protecting our soldiers with the best weapons that are possible to have. I want that for our soldiers. So that's another thing that I'm into. I like very much the fact that he has cut taxes on Social Security. Now, I loved Reagan. I voted for Reagan.
I love
to some of his
Reagan. Oh
rallies.
my God.
I thought he was a great guy. A lot of people that hated him ended up loving him. Before he
The
got
trickle
out.
down
So,
mastermind.
there's a lot of people that change over time. One of the things that Reagan did was strengthened our military. After Reagan, however, there were a number of people who decimated our military by letting it go to pot. And so I'm thrilled that that has changed. That's another very positive thing in my opinion.
Okay, can I address those 2 points here real quick? 3 points actually. So the first point, I don't think that Trump fixed the VA. I think that since he's got in office, that he's actively defunded the VA by cutting the amount of people specifically employed at the VA, reducing the level of care. Now that could have possibly not affected your particular area or your level of care, I guess, but seemingly it's impacted plenty of other veterans. I've talked to veterans myself, and they've talked about their health, which means that we're going to be able to address health conditions earlier.
Why do I
rather
keep
than later,
disconnecting?
which significantly reduces the cost of healthcare.
That sounds really nice, but the two countries that we are very familiar with who have done that, Canada and England. In England, it takes a year to get an appointment. In Canada,
That's just not true. It's not a year for every appointment.
I was stationed there. I know exactly what it is. Okay, I've been there. I've
It's
seen
not
it,
on
done
average
it.
a year to get an appointment in the UK.
Well,
But-
it depends on the appointment. If
yeah,
you have-
exactly.
If you need a knee replacement, it takes over a year. In Canada, it takes more than 6 months.
Okay, so the
6
okay,
months.
so the for the elective wait time, the median waiting time is 13.4 weeks for elective treatment. For emergency, it's 2 hours and 37 minutes, or A&E waiting times, and cancer treatment waiting times is for the median is 13.6 weeks. So although you could say that there is some basis of saying that like there could be longer wait times, that's because more people are getting access to care, and there's still something that we can do to expedite that by expanding access to the amount of people specifically who are in these fields working as a doctor, nurse, or a medical professional in general, right, that would be able to provide broader access to care.
Oh, who doesn't get emergency care now?
What are you saying? Who doesn't get emergency
Who in
care?
this country? Who
Well-
in the United States does not get emergency care now?
Well, you can get emergency care directly when you need it, but what you're not
My
understanding is that people
eyeballs.
don't get preventative health care, and the cost adds up in terms of debt. So you understand that we have to pay for it, inevitably speaking.
So who pays for it?
The person.
Okay,
I think
But you don't
that it
want
should be
the
paid
person
for
to
by our
pay for it.
government.
but there's no such thing as the government. It's the people.
Well,
The
the
government
government
doesn't pay for it.
is controlled controlled by the people. Sure, you could say that.
But the people, the people are the ones who pays for it. And
Yeah, of course,
having-
taxation.
Yes. And so what you're advocating is that the people who are willing or able to work pay for those who are unwilling or unable to work. Now,
Well,
I have
the
no
reality of the
problem-
matter is that you're okay with doing that for public roads. You're
Oh,
okay with
shit.
doing that for K through 12 education systems. And I'm just
No,
saying
I'm
that this
not.
is an extension of these things.
No, I'm not.
So you don't think
in
there
the
should be taxes
education-
to pay for public roads and for education systems?
The taxation for public roads is done with gasoline tax. The people that use the roads pay for the roads. The people who own property and pay for the property pay property taxes that go to pay for schools. People who own homes have children. That's who pays for it.
You know
I like
that there
that.
are there's federal funds for highways and for infrastructure. It's not just going to be through the context of local gasoline taxes.
No. It's not local gasoline tax. It's federal gasoline tax pays for federal roads.
So
Not all-
it's not 100%
not all-
because, for example, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, there's plenty of roads, bridges, and infrastructure that was funded specifically, and that's not necessarily through that same funding mechanism.
Well, I will agree that the government spends more than just the gasoline tax on roads.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So it's not just the gasoline tax. So the point that I'm making is that, again, there are plenty of taxes that you believe should exist to ensure that we have adequate access to roads, adequate access to basic services that everyone has the ability to use, regardless of how much they've worked.
No, everyone doesn't have access to the roads. Only
Yes, they
people who
do.
have cars. Only people who have cars have access.
Does everyone get an education?
If they want to, they can
Yeah.
get up to a 12th grade
There you
education.
go. So in either circumstances, it's whether they want to, right, rather than like limiting it otherwise. And you know that people can have like a bike or they can walk on public sidewalks or take public transit.
Most
They
sidewalks
could be a passenger.
are not built by government. The vast majority are not built by government.
Vast majority of
When
what?
I'm sorry, I have a cough. I had a drink around, but it has disappeared.
Oh, you're good. Don't worry.
The vast majority of sidewalks are from the property owners of the people that own the property next to the street. And in towns and cities, it's the same way. When you build a property or own a property, you have to maintain the sidewalk in front of your property. You even have to shovel the snow off of it.
I think that depends area. It depends. I mean, if you look up from Legal Clarity, they say that public sidewalks are primarily not from homes and that they're typically owned by local governments or municipalities and are part of public right-of-way.
Somebody has misinformed them totally. The vast majority of sidewalks are created by homeowners and property owners and maintained by the same people. There are municipalities that maintain some sidewalks. That's true. But that's not the majority by a long stretch.
And do you have like a source for that, or is just this like a claim that you're making?
I've been around for 76 years. I've paid taxes for all but 15 or 16. No, I got my first job when I was 14. So since 60 of those years, I've paid taxes, and I watch where my money goes.
Okay. That's still not a source just because you've been around for 76 years. To be honest, like there are people in the chat that agree with me that are older than you.
Well, I can't help it.
Of course, it depends on the area is the point I would make.
There are some municipalities that do more than others. That's true. But for neighborhoods and any place where you build property on a road, almost every place that I've been, and I've lived in many of them, you have to provide a sidewalk. It's just part of the deal.
Okay, so I mean, I think that could be specifically where you've lived, but not necessarily representative of everyone else or everyone else's experience or what it is typically in the United States. It could be very hyper-specific to the area that you're in.
We're talking about the majority of people. Yeah, there's some people that don't get cancer no matter what happens. There's some people that never get sick no matter what happens.
If we're talking about the majority of people, wait, if we're talking about the majority of people, look at the comment section. Majority of people are agreeing with me in the comments.
That doesn't mean a thing. That's just who you have on right now.
They're biased, definitely. I don't think you can use that.
You could say that. You could say that, but the point that I'm making is that like you can't just base it upon anecdotes because the anecdotes are going to depend based upon that person's experience and how it could be biased. Isn't that evidence that the personal experience that you're describing to me is then going to be biased? If you're not willing to accept the chat or other people's experiences in the chat, couldn't we say the same thing about your personal experience?
My personal experiences are very demonstrative to me and informative to me. And
how does that distinct that from other people? Like, that's my point, is that like, couldn't we say that it's biased to your particular area, to where you've been, and not what's true for the majority of the country?
Generally speaking, people who are wise will listen to people who are older and have more experience. That's called wisdom. And usually we associate wisdom with age. And so the more experience you have, the more wisdom you generally have. Now, it's not always the case. We look at Kamala Harris. I don't think she has much wisdom.
I think she has much more wisdom than you.
Well,
okay, well, like, to be honest, you didn't take into account what I said there because I'm younger than you. People who have wisdom can realize that someone younger than you can have an identification of something true, independent of the fact that they're younger than you. So I might have experiences that limit me from understanding certain things, but when you're talking about a source here for an evidence about a claim for the average person, it's not just based upon your experience. Your own experience is very good at telling me what your own experience has been like. But it's not very good at describing what everyone's experience has been like in the country. So you can't make a general claim on average of a majority of places it's like this because of the fact that you've experienced it like this in the areas that you've been in. That doesn't necessarily follow. Can it be the case that it could in some circumstances follow? Sure, but it's not going to be the case that it necessarily follows, and it's not going to serve as good evidence either. That's why we rely
green
on
fire?
empirical evidence to be able to justify things like that.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
there's
That's what
nobody
it is.
whose
It's cool.
experience is perfect in all matters.
That's why it's
And
there.
there's obviously the people you talk to are biased for what they
Look
see
at that.
or feel.
Fire.
And I am too. Having been around a long time, and
Fire.
I'm a news junkie. I don't follow the mainstream media. I read and read and read.
Is
And
that less
therefore, I
distracting?
have a lot of insights that some people don't have. And had I known my grandson was going to put me on,
I
with
did
you,
that with
I would have
the
looked up a few
broadcast
facts
software
for
I
you
use.
to chew on. But I haven't done that, so I can't bring facts to you. But the fact is, Obamacare has helped the insurance companies more than it has helped the uninsured.
Okay. So, well, what my point would be is that that's just not true. I definitely think that people have gotten expanded access to health insurance, especially those that have pre-existing health conditions through the ACA, and even children through the context of the fact that they'd be 26 because of this. And then also, like, I don't think the ACA is perfect. I think it needs to be expanded to a universal healthcare system because countries around the world, like for example, you mentioned Canada and the UK, they actually spend almost half as much per individual as we do on healthcare expenditure, and they have better health outcomes than we do. So
They do
I think
not
that
have
we would
better
actually.
health outcomes.
They do
When
actually.
Okay, I had a company that worked with a company in Toronto. When they had serious problems, where do you think they went to the doctor? They left Canada and came to the United States because they could see a doctor right away and they could get into a better hospital, even though they had to pay for it.
Well, I think that there are countless people specifically that will go from the U.S. to Canada because they can't afford their insulin, or because they can't afford basic surgery, or because they can't afford basic things that they need. So I think that there's a lot of people that we could point to in terms of anecdotal experiences that would do the exact opposite. So that's not evidence of a general claim of whether or not it's going to be cheaper in one area versus or better in one area versus the other. It's going to be depending on the circumstance. I think clearly, like, it's going to be, cheaper, more accessible in the context of Canada. But if you have the ability to pay, you're going to be able to get better access to specialized stuff probably here in the United States and quicker. Why? Because of the fact that in the United States, it's pay to play. In Canada, right, people are judged based upon severity and need to a greater extent.
I don't know who told you here that one class of people gets better care than another. It's not true.
It is true. It's an objective fact.
Hospitals are not allowed to differentiate whether it's a paying customer or a non-paying customer.
Okay, well, like, if you can pay more, you can go to better hospitals. If you can pay more, you can go to more specialized doctors. If you can pay more, you can cut the line. Like, I mean, that's just facts.
Okay, but most people cannot and will not do that. We all, for the most part, get the same care. We all get the same care.
And I don't think that we all get the same care. I think that there's a two-tiered system for those that are rich versus those that have lesser access.
And why do you think that?
Why? Why? Because of the fact that I've not only, based upon your argument, seen it myself in terms of anecdotal experience, but also because the data reflects that.
So where did you get bad care?
Where did I get bad care?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that I've got good care throughout my life because I've been able to get access to it and afford it because my parents have been well off.
Okay, so who do you know that hasn't gotten good care?
People specifically who have had a lack of access to be able to afford it in this country. I know countless people directly who have been my friends and people I've known who have had horrible care because of lack of access to be able to pay for it.
If you can't afford it, it's free.
The fuck?
It's not free.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. We don't have a universal free access to healthcare in this country. That's just not true.
We don't have universal, but we have free care for poor people.
Did you know most personal bankruptcies are due to the fact that people can't pay their medical expenses?
I don't know. I know that medical expenses are problematic, but for the most part, that's not poor people. That's people who are wealthy and have try to take care of it without
we're talking
try to get
bankruptcy, so I definitely disagree with you there. Like, I definitely do think that we're talking about people specifically who have a lack of the ability to afford the health care in this situation because it's incredibly unaffordable in this country. I mean, have you had experiences with, like, taking an ambulance ride and it being thousands of dollars before? For just a few minutes?
I have ridden in an ambulance.
And it costs thousands of dollars?
It depends. If you get a private ambulance, you might have to spend a lot, but if you get a municipal ambulance, it's usually about $50 to start, and maybe it'll be $150. But
And I don't think you get to choose when we're talking about in the ambulance situation. It's kind of just whoever's there.
that's not true at all. You call an ambulance.
Well, you understand that if you call 911 for people and they send out an ambulance, you don't really get a choice there. And not every place around the US is going to have that cheap of access to it. Like before, I've literally had an ambulance ride that was just a few minutes that happened to be thousands of dollars.
Well, for the most part, I don't know where you live and how that happened. For the most part, when you call 911, you get a municipal ambulance, and those are very inexpensive.
Yeah, because when I'm incapacitated, I'm going to definitely ask them to ensure that.
If you call 911, you get a municipal ambulance. You don't get a
and I'm
private
going to make sure while I'm incapacitated to let the person know who's calling the 911 that they should do that.
It happens automatically.
Okay,
you
well
call
then I
911
wonder why it was so expensive for all of us.
Well, you must not have got your ride through 911. How did you get
definitely
your ambulance ride?
definitely didn't, yeah.
You definitely did not, or you definitely did?
He's being sarcastic.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic.
Oh,
Like it's dependent upon the area in the that you are. Like,
Welcome,
some places
people.
don't have those municipalities that make it extremely cheap, right? And also, like, we're talking about the fact that nowhere, in no context, should it cost that much for someone to be able to get access to literally just being taken to the hospital. Okay? People shouldn't have to think about whether or not they're going to order a ride-sharing app, right, to be able to get to
that's what's happening.
the hospital, right, rather than specifically going in the ambulance.
I think it's important people know how I do my work because
instance, if you
it's
have
not
passport,
necessarily
which
difficult. It's just
people
a
who
learning
are,
curve. So if I can show it off, more people
low
can do
income
it.
have passport. The ambulance
Kind of
ride
like
is free,
passive teaching,
totally
I think.
free, except somebody has to pay for it. Who
I use an
pays for it?
IDE to write the articles with me.
They do.
Like,
Right.
as you can see, I'm
No,
not
they
just
don't.
generating
If you have passport,
content.
they don't-
I
it's
had a
free
lot
to
of the
the
text
passport
done after a
person.
few
They
hours, and I'm
don't
still
pay
here for an
anything.
hour
Somebody
formatting
pays.
it, doing
I've
edits.
never heard of this before.
Well, that's just because you haven't heard of it. It's the way it
You're
is.
young and inexperienced.
Oh, sure, yeah, man.
I have a son that just walked in, and he said that, and he knows for sure. So that's one thing. We don't have a problem with poor
Yeah,
people.
next
not
time I
having
go
health.
into an ambulance ride, I'm just gonna be like, yo, dude, I got my passport on me, and I'm gonna show them that.
No. You don't know what passport is, I guess. It's a health
Oh
card
my
that the
God.
government gives low-income people, where they don't have to pay for their medical or dental.
Oh, you're referencing, okay, sorry, you're referencing not someone's passport, you're referencing passport. Okay, sorry, I
The
apologize.
AI is stupid as fuck sometimes.
I was like, I for a second there, I thought you were saying that someone could just show their passport. I was like, what the f are you talking about? I apologize. I know what you're referencing.
So we don't have
Yeah,
a
that's it.
problem with poor people not getting health care. We have a
The
problem
bad
with
code
We
lexicon.
definitely do have a limited access to that because it depends on the state in access to Medicaid and our social services, which, by the way, Republicans, not only do they want to cut, but also Donald Trump, through the big, beautiful bill, has actively cut himself. 10 million people off their access to health insurance through Medicaid, 2.5 million people off their access to every single month on average to food stamps, and over 420,000 children on average every single month off their access to free school lunch and breakfast.
So at what income level do you think people should be on food stamps?
I'd have to check. It depends on area. That's state dependent. That's like district
Well,
and
give,
area
give me an
dependent.
idea for an average.
I was like, if someone doesn't have the ability to afford their basic needs in a certain area, it obviously it's too area dependent to be able to make a general claim like that, I think.
So if somebody has cable TV, a late model car, a motorcycle, and a boat, should they get food stamps?
If they have a motorcycle and a boat, I mean,
and
is
a
it like an
car.
old motorcycle, an old boat? Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, if you can afford the finer things of life, should they be getting food stamps?
Finer things in life. Yeah, if you're super luxury, if you're top 1%, you should not be getting food stamps.
Okay, well, where do you want to draw the line?
Where do I want to draw the, I mean, in terms of income? Again,
Yeah.
it depends on the area. Like, I don't think I can make a general claim about the entirety of the U.S. Now, there could be
What?
some low bar that
You're
would exist
stupid.
as a federal standpoint, right? That specifically
Talking
would
my
be then
AI.
as an income justifier for this, but it would be dependent based upon certain states and, you know, larger cities, things like that, where the cost of living is higher.
Well, what Mr.
It's
Trump
dependent on
did,
whatever is a living income in the area.
well, and that of course is a debatable thing. I like to play a piano, so I have to have a piano. I'm a photographer. I like to have a nice camera. So my basic income
Well, I'm not
would
saying that
include those
we should
necessities.
provide people pianos through the federal government. That's not my argument.
Why not?
Actually, that's what Pete Hegseth did. They spent $100,000 on giving a person in the like who was like a chief of staff a $100,000 piano, right, through the Department of Defense, when they spent, I think it was 94 billion in 1 month, including like
and you
$6.9
understand-
million of lobster tails.
And you understand that the government has cut, what, 2/3, 3/4 of a million people out of jobs in the government. We reduced the number of people, and we're doing the same work.
Including the VA, which you said that is something Trump fixed, but that
I'm so
reduces
confused.
care and access to the VA.
Yeah, there were people in the VA that didn't do anything.
There are people in the
And so
VA
now
that didn't do
The
anything.
care, you
So
asked
we're not just talking about people that didn't, they didn't just fire people that literally like sat in a room and looked at a wall. That's not what they did.
Yeah, basically they did. They were paper pushers.
No.
You talk to some people that use the VA. It's better now than it has ever been.
Well, for everyone specifically on the VA in the chat, do you agree or disagree? Then you're gonna be like, oh, well, they're biased. Okay.
What? They disagree?
No, I said that earlier, probably because they support you. I agree with you, like, on the majority of stuff. I'm just saying, like, you can't really use your chat as a source to definitively say something because obviously most of them are going to be your fans.
Yeah, but doesn't that make sense that he can't just use himself as a source because then his experience could be biased to his own experience?
No, I
Whereas
agree
other
with
people
that.
could have
I'm
different
saying
experiences. Like, you could say the same thing about him ideologically speaking.
So
That's the
let's
point
talk
I'm
to some
making.
people. So do you have other veterans online right now?
Like, they're not on the live with us talking to us, but they're in the comment section saying yes, that they disagree with you. That it's not better, that things have gotten worse.
I'm not saying that.
I'm
they're
bored
doing
of
that.
listening
They
to
could be
stupid
lying.
people.
You have no way to verify it. They could just be saying that because they want you to win the argument. I'm not.
But today we're going to be talking about something. Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mutahar, and you know, I've talked a lot about the old Epstein stuff over here, ladies and gentlemen, but I always promise one thing when I make these videos, is that there is something huge that breaks in here, and something that will always blow your mind. Now, of course, last time we talked about this, the FBI apparently had their servers hacked, which contained a lot of those files that I don't know if somebody has access to anymore, whatever. But today we're going to be talking about something that actually should blow your mind. Literally, as of yesterday, as I'm talking about it, the story is breaking even more and more and more. That it seems like the government has actually really jumped in and just completely stonewalled any real, tangible criminal investigation. So for anybody that doesn't know, this was a guy called Leon
Yeah, this
White.
shit's fucked up.
He's
I
a
gotta write
billionaire
about this.
financier, and he was supposed to be deposed.
I hate writing
with the
about breaking
Epstein
news, but
lawsuits,
the
right?
world's crazy
Specifically
right now.
against the Bank of America, which a lot of the victims say helped process.
So if
around
anyone's a
$170
news
million,
junkie, listen in
not
on
really
this.
even questioning what the money was used for. It turns out that money was, I guess, allegedly used for doing really nefarious, terrible things. So he's supposed to be deposed, but guess what, ladies and gentlemen?
he wasn't deposed. Basically, the day is not going to arrive. The lawsuit actually settled in this situation. And guess what? This guy that everyone had their eyes on, he gets to walk away pretty much without ever going under oath. Crazy shit. So anyways, I feel like it's time to actually look a little deeper into what has happened. So this is the United States Senate Committee on Finance, all right, March 16th, 2026. They basically said, hey, listen, we found out that apparently they have a settlement with the Bank of America, the actual victims versus the bank. And basically, he says over here that Bank of America's decision to settle with the group of survivors is actually a step towards justice and a vindication of his staff's investigation into how major Wall Street banks enable
It's taking
the
forever
Epstein
for me to get
crime.
the accurate
All along the way,
citations.
attorneys representing the survivors
But that's
used the
part of the
findings my
process of double
investigation
checking everything.
to prove that Bank of America willfully looked the other way as the billionaire Leon Black paid Epstein more than $170 million. So Bank of America's employees repeatedly failed to conduct due diligence and report suspicious transactions to the United States Treasury Department, as required under the Bank Secrecy Act. So again, to give you an idea, what has actually happened to is even companies like Apollo, who are basically the global management firm tied to Leon Black, basically the only thing they've pretty much said is February 18, 2026, they were like, listen guys, the facts matter. From an Apollo perspective, there's nothing new in these Epstein files, nor there Mark Rowan, nor anyone else at Apollo except for Leon Black had a business or personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. So again, big company over here throwing Leon Black basically.
My AI is having a
and
rebellion.
again, they say Mr. Black
It's like not
retained
listening.
and compensated Epstein for personal tax advice, right?
1 second.
So again, a lot of it is just
I'm gonna turn off the
wishy-washy
camera for a
speak.
second.
But in reality, a lot of people kind of
My
put their
cat.
finger at him and say, maybe this guy is the financial fixer, right? See, in order to stop crime, in a lot of ways, you have to follow the money. Some of the biggest investigations I've ever done, some of the ones that I'm personally very proud of, a lot of it came down to following the money. If you can follow the money, if you can trace down how it was used, you can basically understand and kind of figure out if there was a criminal element. In some cases, it actually does seem to be that way. Now, basically what the senator over here is effectively saying is under the Bank Secrecy Act, Bank of America processed these huge wire transfers from Leon Black to Epstein, often in $10 to $20 million installments, without asking questions. Now in Canada, there's something similar. It's kind of called FinTrack, which is an organization, but basically they kind of do the whole Bank Secrecy Act in Canada. So to give you an understanding, just from a Canadian perspective, basically, if you have transactions of like $10,000 or more, for instance, then that has to be reported specifically. And here's the fun part. Even if a transaction is like $100, $1,000, you can file what is an STR in Canada or an SAR in America. And those, transaction reports, the suspicious transaction report, basically is filed if, for instance, that, if you think
What are you talking
that you're
about?
giving money to
Rick?
or you're getting money
ain't
specifically
the
from
place
somebody
for
that
that.
might be in a drug cartel, a fucking terror operation, or if somebody is giving you money that doesn't seem completely kosher, right? At that point in time, you have to file fucking reports. It's funny that when it comes to money and taxes, the government always clamps down on the small guys and even the personal tax person, right? Like, if you file your taxes wrong, the government calls you up maybe years down the road and fucking.
This
they
guy is
ask you a
talking
million
about shit
questions
I
and,
talk
you
about all the
probably
time.
either capitulate or you think maybe you can fight. It's crazy.
And he's a
when you look at
Canadian.
this Epstein story that $10 to $20 million installments were basically fucking processed by an entire bank and not a fucking question was asked, okay? That is the scary part, but it gets even deeper. So let's go. So because this lawsuit effectively got settled with the Bank of America, the scumbag Leon Black in this case, well, he just gets to go on without ever actually going under oath, which obviously is a pretty big blow when it comes to investigating, because I think the right track was to look into these banks, look at how the money was moving around, and how things were being, sort of handled. Now again, an attorney for the victim basically calls Leon Black a critical witness, and I do tend to agree, because in the lawsuit, they said the Bank of America turned that blind eye to suspicious transfers, again, when it came to $170 million for tax and real estate planning advice, which, again, $170 million is insane. So, in a previous settlement agreement between Black and the U.S. Virgin Islands, they said Epstein used the money Black paid him to partially fund his operations in the Virgin Islands. So, it's interesting how he was about to be deposed, and then basically a week before, this whole thing gets settled out. I mean, I don't see justice being done over here. I see that if you're rich enough, you can write a fucking check and hand it over and get away, which, I'm not naive. I know that's how the world unfortunately works. I just didn't expect it to be so painfully transparent, is sort of the thing. And a guy like Leon Black is somebody Epstein had 862 emails with, a very fruitful and long-running relationship. This was the guy that connected him basically to the finance world that allowed Epstein to commit a vast amount of crimes. Remember, money buys influence. Influence, unfortunately, pays for a shit ton of protection. And a lot of that protection, unfortunately, came in the view of all of these people right here, some of the most powerful financial, political leaders in the world. And this guy was an ultimate connector of all these people, okay? This was a guy that was very good at connecting people together. Unfortunately, it seems like his connection to banks allowed him to commit so many extra crimes, or just basically allow him to get away with his shit as long as he did. Now, in this entire story, too, what you have to also understand is before the settlement, obviously they were wanting to dismiss the case, but there were other banks involved, two other banks specifically, JP Morgan Chase, which paid $290 million to the survivors, and Deutsche Bank, which paid $75 million. So when you read into this lawsuit, obviously, it was brought on behalf of a woman identified in court papers as a Jane Doe, and, it said that the woman was living in Russia when she met Epstein in 2011 and was coerced into a cult-like life. So obviously isolation from family, and obviously you have a system of, somebody who watches over you and then you watch over somebody. So it's very much people intertwined with themselves, isolated from the outside. And I guess that's the best way that I can sort of convey what a cult-like life is. Anyways, it said she was paid by Epstein through a Bank of America account as she was controlled financially, emotionally, and psychologically by Epstein from 2011 through 2019 as he abused her for at least 100 occasions. So again, the lawsuit alleges that Epstein paid her rent and income through a phony job through a Bank of America account and held her immigration status over her head until her ultimate escape when Jeffrey Epstein died. So this is how you have your hold over people, right? Like you hold their right to live in a certain part of the world.
It's pretty cool.
And you basically control their aspect through the money. And so a bank, this is why we have things like financial auditing. This is why we have things like the Bank Secrecy Act, so that if you do detect somebody is doing something improper with money, whether it's $1,000 or $100,000 or $1 million, you can at least verify that every transaction was made with good faith, it was made legally, and if there is some errant, wrong behavior happening, you can stop it. Banks not doing this is, in my opinion, being complicit to a criminal operation, right? You, if you're a bank and you've taken that responsibility and you're processing everyone's money, you need to make sure your money is being processed properly. And there is nothing untowards happening. That's the whole point for these banks, right? That's why operations like money laundering exist. It's the ability to take, illegal money and legally put it into a bank that can be used in very legitimate purchases of, assets, right? If banks aren't meeting their end, in my opinion, they're also just complicit. Now, when you look at JP Morgan, for instance, right? JP Morgan had a much tougher time compared to the Bank of America, because at least in JP Morgan, there was some level of evidence that proved that at the top, they weren't really putting any effort into basically
How
making
the
sure that
hell do I
Epstein
do
wasn't
this?
spending
I
his
hate
money wrong,
patience.
that the Epstein transactions, rather, weren't done wrong. Honestly, there could be a whole set of Epstein files just related to these banks that would tell more than whatever the government gave us. If you can follow the money, you can figure out who was exactly co-conspirator, who was actually, involved really heavily into this. So Jess Staley was a person that was basically Epstein's biggest connection at JP Morgan. And he was basically a person that was pretty invaluable to Epstein when it came to, again, just how the money worked and how the influence was traded around, and basically legitimizing Epstein and his money and his wealth in front of the entire world, right? And it was basically looking into this guy, and when the dam finally burst, right? What JP Morgan had done was going to something called Project Jeep, which is where they went back in, their history with Epstein. They looked through every single transaction, and at this point they flagged 4,700 Epstein transactions they never did before, totaling to the tune of more than $1.1 billion. Hundreds of millions of dollars in payments to Russian banks, and young Eastern European women who were brought to the United States, according to investigators working for Senator Ron Wyden, who was actually digging into this. He was the one that was really digging into the money. Banks are required to file reports in real time to alert law enforcement to things like money laundering,
so confused.
sex trafficking, and drug dealing. Doing it after the fact might have provided JP Morgan with legal cover, but it did nothing to help identify Epstein's crimes as they were happening.
Oh, I guess it
I don't
would.
think you should be allowed to go back and file that many transaction reports and say that, oh, we finally did our job. No, you should have done your job as it fucking happened. And the thing is, when you look at how bad the situation is and you think about, okay, what was the actual punishment? The punishment was really nothing. They had to pay him $290 million to settle a lawsuit. It's interesting.
Imagine holding a piece of undeniable, verified video evidence of corruption, and instead of being censored, you're just laughed at.
Right, because everyone just immediately assumes it's AI.
Exactly. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating stack of sources.
Yes, starting with that article on the Cassandra algorithm and then flowing right into part 1 of a 4-part serious play series you uploaded.
Right. So our mission today is to understand how modern information systems are engineered to just completely exhaust you, and why leaning into strategic escapism might actually be your best defense.
It's kind of wild when you put it all together.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. The sources set the stage with this idea of vertical war, like the top versus the bottom. But the weapon of choice isn't deleting the truth anymore, is it?
No, not at all. Because, deleting things leaves a trail. If you want to control a narrative today, you don't attack the information, you attack the messenger.
Which brings us to the Cassandra algorithm.
Exactly. Think of the Greek myth. Cassandra was cursed to see the future, but doomed to never be believed. Today, systems preemptively discredit truth tellers.
By labeling them as fringe or radical.
Right. It's called source derogation. And because nobody wants to be the weirdo in their friend group, the public basically just polices itself.
Oh, wow. So if believing an inconvenient truth means you might get socially exiled,
your brain will literally block out that truth to protect your social standing. It's a defense mechanism called identity protective cognition.
That makes so much sense.
But what's fascinating here is how this pairs with the liar's dividend. It weaponizes the mere existence of AI deepfakes.
Wait, so bad actors don't even need to make thick videos anymore?
No. If a real damaging video of a politician leaks tomorrow, they can just shrug and say, well, it's an AI forgery. They use the ambient doubt to kill objective reality.
Wow. It's like a reverse CSI effect.
A reverse CSI effect.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, juries demanded high-tech forensic proof for everything because they saw it on TV shows. Now, we're so hyper-aware of AI that we just instinctively assume everything real is a synthetic forgery.
That is a perfect way to put it. But let's say a piece of truth actually survives all of that doubt and character assassination.
The system has a backup plan.
Exactly. A secondary containment protocol. And it relies entirely on engineering your exhaustion.
So if they can't make us disbelieve the truth, they just tire us out so we don't care.
Precisely. And they do it through something the sources call the sedation prison.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because think about it. Are we actually recovering when we scroll on our phones, or are we walking right into a trap?
Oh, it's absolutely a trap. Think about passive algorithmic content, doom scrolling, when you rapidly scroll through disconnected high-stress videos.
Like a war zone, then a dancing cat, then a political rant.
Right. Your brain gets completely overloaded by the context switching. It's trying to process wild emotional swings every 3 seconds.
Which is exhausting.
Very. And to protect itself from that overload, your brain dials down its cognitive arousal. It induces what's called schema collapse.
Schema collapse.
Yeah, your brain's ability to categorize and make sense of the world just short circuits. You stop trying to understand and basically sedate yourself. It breeds learned helplessness.
So the system doesn't need you to be angry.
No, it just needs you hollowed out, tired, and apathetic. Think about how you feel at 10 p.m. after an hour of scrolling. You aren't relaxed.
You're completely drained.
That's the sedation prison working exactly as intended.
But I have to push back here. If exhaustion is the prison, how do you break out? We uploaded part 1 of that Serious Play series, and it suggests things like deep lore building or complex gaming.
I guess active escapism.
But isn't spending 4 hours building a digital fortress just, hiding from the real world? Society definitely judges that as a waste of time.
Society judges it that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But neurologically, the serious play doctrine argues the exact opposite. Active escapism doesn't drain you. It acts as a cognitive forge.
A cognitive forge, so it's actively rebuilding your brain.
Exactly. Mindless scrolling is like sitting on the couch eating junk food. It hollows you out.
Yeah.
But engaging in a complex strategy game or diving into deep lore, that's resistance training. It rebuilds your mental bandwidth and executive function.
So we're treating escapism not as running away, but as a simulator to rebuild our mental stamina.
Yes. And it highlights this brilliant tactic called the Zoe Protocol, which is essentially strategy disguised as whimsy.
Strategy disguised as whimsy. I love that.
It's about breaking the predictable, exhausting script we're all stuck in. Imagine walking up to an exhausted, doom-scrolling crowd and asking a complete non sequitur, like, hey, have you ever seen a shooting star?
Oh, I see. It snaps people out of their trance.
Right. It forces a massive cognitive reset. You disrupt the agreement of sameness.
So what does this all mean? It means your attention and your imagination are the actual battlegrounds. The system wants you predictable, tired, and doubting your own eyes.
And your best defense is to refuse that predictability, to rigorously refuse to be bored, and to rebuild your cognitive strength through active play.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to take with you. If play and whimsy are the ultimate cognitive rebellions against a system that demands your predictable exhaustion, what is the most joyful, unpredictable thing you can do today that an algorithm couldn't possibly foresee?
So?
Imagine someone burns down your house. Like you actually catch them on video holding the match, just laughing about it.
Right, dead to rights.
Exactly. You take that video to court, feeling completely vindicated, but the arsonist just looks at the judge, shrugs, and says, oh, that's an AI deepfake.
And suddenly you're the one on trial.
Yes. Instead of locking the arsonist up, the judge turns to you and says, you now need to spend, I don't know, $1 million on digital forensics to mathematically prove the video is real. Sounds absolutely insane, right? But it is happening right now at the highest levels of our society.
It really is. It completely flips the baseline of reality. We're so used to thinking of captivity or control in very physical, tangible terms, like iron bars, concrete walls, steel doors.
Yeah, the classic prison.
Exactly. But the systems governing us today, they don't primarily rely on physical force anymore. They rely on a psychological cage. They hack our biology. They overwhelm our cognitive bandwidth, and they literally weaponize our basic social manners against us.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled you're here. Today, we're exploring the invisible architecture of systemic control, the modern epistemic crisis, which, by the way, is really just a fancy way of saying complete collapse of shared reality.
Perfectly put.
And most importantly, we're looking at how you can break free from it. We've got a massive, really dense stack of sources today. We're talking sociological research, cybersecurity doctrines, and tactical activism manuals.
It's a heavy stack, for sure.
It is, and our mission for this deep dive is to decode exactly how reality is being weaponized against you, the public, and to reveal the surprisingly joyful way you can actually fight back. So, okay, let's unpack this, because this topic completely flipped my understanding of how society operates.
Oh, I mean, it fundamentally changes how you view your daily interactions. And to really understand how control works today, we have to start by looking at the most modern tool of confusion in the systemic arsenal, which is artificial intelligence.
Right.
But not in the way most people think.
Yeah, because everyone is terrified of generative AI making fake things look real. The fake video of a politician saying something completely crazy.
Right, the actual deep fakes.
Exactly. But the research points to something far more insidious called the liar's dividend. This is a term coined by researchers Chesney and Citron. The real danger isn't just the actual deepfakes. The danger is that bad actors can now look at completely real, authentic evidence like a whistleblower's leaked audio or a dashcam video and just wave their hands and say, oh, that's AI generated.
Exactly. And this introduces what the researchers call the truth teller's tax.
Ooh, the truth teller's tax.
Yeah. By simply claiming a real video is a deepfake, the bad actor shifts the entire burden of proof onto the whistleblower, the journalist, or even just an average citizen. You go from being the victim presenting evidence to being the suspect who has to defend their evidence.
Which is wild.
It is. Suddenly, you have to hire expensive digital forensic experts to prove your reality. It completely
think I'm
prices
finally done.
accountability out of the justice system. We're actually seeing the rise of the reverse CSI effect in courtrooms right now.
Wait, the reverse CSI effect?
Yeah, where juries are now assuming that perfectly real, authentic evidence is fake simply because they know AI exists in the world.
It's exactly like that arsonist analogy. Like the arsonist blames a dragon for the fire, and suddenly you have to spend all your time and money proving that dragons don't exist.
Well, they just walk free.
Exactly. And while you're exhausting yourself doing that, the arsonist just walks away.
That is a perfect way to visualize the mechanics of it. And I mean, we're seeing this tactic used globally across all spectrums. And listener, just a quick note as we go through these examples, whether we're talking about an international president or, say, a domestic political event like the January 6th defendants, our goal today isn't to take any political side.
Right, we have to be clear about that.
We really do. We are impartially looking at the source data to show you the mechanics of how these tactics work across the board, completely neutrally.
Absolutely. We are just looking at the machinery here. Take the 2018 crisis in Gabon, for example. The president, Ali Bongo, had been out of the public eye due to a stroke. So to prove he was okay and still in charge, the government released a real video address.
But he didn't look quite right.
Exactly. Because of his illness, his face looked a bit stiff. Political opponents immediately seized on the liar's dividend. They claimed it was a deep fake cover-up. And here's the wild part. That single, completely baseless claim of AI manipulation sparked an actual military coup. Yeah, digital forensics later proved the video was 100% authentic, but, the damage was already done.
And we saw the exact same mechanism deployed in India, in the state of Tamil Nadu, back in 2023. There was this massive, totally authentic audio leak that captured a finance minister detailing a $3.6 billion corruption scandal.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B. The minister instantly went to the press, cited those viral AI songs of pop stars like Drake that were going around at the time, and just claimed his voice was machine generated.
Unbelievable.
And it worked. The entire media cycle derailed. Instead of investigating the missing billions, reporters engaged in a highly technical forensic debate about audio compression, and the $3.6 billion scandal was just completely dismissed by the public.
And it's not just politics either. It is hitting corporate law right now. There was a civil lawsuit against Tesla regarding their autopilot software. The plaintiffs brought in a real, completely unedited 2016 video of Elon Musk making safety claims.
Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah, and Tesla's lawyers literally argued that because Musk is a public figure, he has, and I'm quoting the actual legal defense here, Menlord immunity.
Menlord immunity. You can't make this up.
They actually put that in a legal brief. They argued that because he's a frequent target for deepfakes online, he shouldn't have to testify about statements he made on video because any video of him could be fake.
Did the judge buy it?
No, thankfully. The judge, Yvette Pennypacker, completely rejected it and called the argument deeply troubling. But, think about the structural danger there. If a multi-billion-dollar corporation can use the mere existence of AI as a legal shield, what happens to the average person?
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychological strategy. The ultimate goal of the liar's dividend isn't actually to convince you of a specific alternative lie.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they don't need you to believe a different story. The goal is to foster what psychologists call schema collapse.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener. What does schema collapse actually
Schema collapse.
It feels like profound exhaustion. A schema is basically your brain's framework for understanding reality. When bad actors constantly flood the zone with claims that real things are fake and fake things are real, you experience a state where the cognitive labor required to verify basic reality just becomes too much.
You just burn out.
Exactly. You give up. You embrace a baseline assumption that absolutely nothing can be trusted. And when the public assumes everything is a lie, entrenched institutions are suddenly allowed to operate with absolute impunity. Because if nothing is true, nobody can be held accountable.
Okay, I understand the strategy, but I have to ask, if this tactic is so blatantly obvious, why does the public buy into it? Why do we let them get away with shifting the burden of proof?
Because the system weaponizes our own biology against us. To understand why we reject obvious truths, we really have to look at the Semmelweis reflex.
The story of Ignaz Semmelweis, it is so tragic.
It really is.
He was a 19th century doctor in Vienna who figured out that if doctors simply washed their hands between performing autopsies and delivering babies, maternal mortality rates plummeted. Like, he had the empirical proof. The receipts were flawless.
Flawless data.
But the medical establishment was so threatened by the idea that their unwashed hands were killing patients, it threatened their professional ego and their status, that they just refused to look at the data. They literally threw him into an insane asylum where he was beaten and died.
Yes. And the Semmelweis reflex is exactly that, the biological tendency to instinctively reject empirical evidence if it contradicts your pre-existing worldview or threatens your status. Modern psychology expands on this, with Ziva Kunda's concept of motivated reasoning and Dan Kahan's identity protective cognition.
Right.
When you are confronted with undeniable facts that threaten the social group you belong to, your brain literally goes into defense mode.
Hold on, I struggle to buy that. We are told our whole lives that critical thinking, education, and high intelligence protect us from propaganda. Are you seriously telling me that smart people are actually more easily manipulated by this?
That is exactly what the clinical data shows, and it is a really hard pill to swallow. Intelligence is not a cure for evidence rejection, it's just a more sophisticated weapon for rationalization.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you give highly analytical people data that contradicts their political or social identity, they don't change their minds. They use their intellect to cherry-pick the data, find methodological flaws, and build incredibly complex excuses to explain away the truth. They just have a bigger vocabulary to defend their bias.
And this leads to what the researchers call expressive rationality, right?
Exactly.
Because for the average person, accepting a truth that makes their social group angry carries a terrifying biological threat, the threat of being socially ostracized. The sources point out that our brains literally process social exclusion using the exact same neural pathways as physical pain.
Precisely. To your brain, being kicked out of your tribe is essentially a death sentence. So if accepting a fact means you might be cast out of your community, your brain decides the fact is the enemy. You avoid the physical pain of cognitive dissonance by engaging in what's called source derogation.
Source derogation. So basically, they don't attack your argument. They just label you crazy or difficult to work with so nobody else will listen to you.
Exactly. You attack the messenger. And institutions know this biological loophole, so they weaponize it on a massive scale through institutional social tagging.
How does that work?
Well, the entrenched power centers, the rust of society, they don't need to debate the facts brought by the working class or the whistleblowers, the gears. The rust just socially tags the truth teller as crazy, fringe, or unprofessional.
Unprofessional. That word does a lot of heavy lifting.
It does. And the general public, who are terrified of being ostracized themselves, they police themselves and ignore the truth teller. The system doesn't even have to silence you. They just make it socially toxic for anyone to listen to you.
Think about your own office, listener. Have you ever been in a situation where you pointed out a massive flaw in a project, and instead of addressing the flaw, management pulled you aside and said you weren't being a team player?
We've all been there.
That brings us directly to how this invisible prison operates in our everyday lives. This isn't just happening in high-level geopolitics or billion-dollar lawsuits. This is the fundamental structure of our daily grind, enforced by the rules of polite society.
Yeah, sociological doctrine refers to this as the vertical war. It's the top-down enforcement of compliance, and it's maintained through what they call a three-layered prison.
Let's bring those layers down to earth for a second. Layer one is economic, the big grind, the inflation and the medical debt. The system keeps you so consumed with basic survival that you have no bandwidth left to resist. You can't protest if you can't pay rent.
Exactly, you're just surviving.
And layer two is the great distraction. This is the horizontal culture war, the algorithmic outrage feed that keeps citizens fighting each other over trivial issues instead of looking up at the people extracting the wealth.
And layer three is the ultimate psychological containment. Learned helplessness. This is curated apathy. You become convinced that the system is an immovable law of nature, like gravity, and the bars of this third layer are built out of something sociologists DiMaggio and Powell called institutional isomorphism, or the iron cage.
Institutional isomorphism, let's translate that. That essentially means organizations relentlessly copying each other to appear legitimate, right?
Exactly. Think about how every corporate HR department starts to sound exactly the same, using the exact same buzzwords. They compress human behavior into a very narrow, homogenized standard of acceptable decorum.
And professionalism becomes a disciplinary leash, the source of talk about these honeypot audits, Companies will put up all these progressive posters saying, bring your whole self to work.
But it's a trap.
It's a total trap. If you actually bring your whole self and that self has a valid structural critique of how the company exploits people or underpays your department, you aren't rewarded for authenticity. You are punished for being disruptive.
Yeah, they demand a bias threshold where marginalized people are expected to endure toxic environments with a polite smile.
It's sickening.
It is, and the historical continuity of this tactic is staggering. If you look back, the British East India Company used the exact same concept of civility to justify extracting wealth from the Indian subcontinent. They framed the locals as uncivilized to validate their subjugation.
Wow, so this is an old playbook.
Very old. Today, modern corporate union avoidance firms do the exact same thing. They rebrand labor organizing and collective bargaining as unprofessional or uncivil, just to maintain their extractive power.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like the system is stepping on your foot, but if you yell in pain, they fire you for being too emotional. They've made the reaction to the harm a bigger crime than the harm itself.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the true goal of enforcing this strict decorum is to kill middle bandwidth.
Middle bandwidth.
Yeah, think about it. If you are under economic terror, distracted by culture wars, and told you must behave perfectly politely at all times, your brain loses the capacity for nuance. You default to scripted, compliant, non-player character behavior, NPC behavior. You just say the corporate jargon, you keep your head down, and you comply.
Okay, so let's recap the trap we are in. If we try to use facts and evidence to fight the system, they use the liar's dividend to dismiss reality.
Right.
If we try to appeal to logic, our own biology, and the fear of social stigma makes people reject the truth, and if we get anger about it, they use professionalism to tone police our anger into silence, we are totally trapped. Is there literally any behavioral script left to us? Like, how on earth do you fight back against a cage made of manners?
Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. You don't play their game. The only way to beat a script is to break it.
And this brings us to Harold Garfinkel and his sociological breaching experiments in the 1960s. This is my absolute favorite part of the research.
It's so brilliant.
Garfinkel wanted to prove how incredibly fragile our social reality actually is. So he had his sociology students go home to their parents' houses and act like former lodgers. They paid for meals, they asked permission to use the bathroom, they addressed their own parents as sir and madam.
And the result was immediate chaos.
The parents absolutely lost their minds. They got furious, they panicked, some even thought their kids were having a psychological breakdown. Garfinkel proved that all it takes to completely shatter reality is to break the unwritten rules of interaction. The invisible bars of the cage only exist if we agree to act out the script.
And this translates into modern resistance through the concepts of serious play and tactical frivolity.
I love those terms.
They're great, right? Because when you confront an authoritarian system with anger, you are playing right into its generative model. The system knows exactly how to handle anger. It has a script for that. It just labels you a violent threat and deploys physical force.
Right.
But if you confront the system with absurdity, you trigger what neurologists call active inference.
Let's break down active inference for the listener. What is actually happening in the brain during that moment?
Simply put, the brain operates as a prediction machine. When a riot cop sees an angry protester with a rock, the cop's brain predicts violence. It releases adrenaline. That's a scripted biological response.
Sure.
But when faced with absolute absurdity, the human brain cannot use its old script. The system experiences a massive prediction error. It literally short circuits. The brain has no biological script for this, so the aggressive response freezes, and the person is forced to undergo a cognitive reset.
The real-world case studies of this are just incredible. Think about the activist Abbie Hoffman in the 1960s. He didn't violently protest the New York Stock Exchange. He snuck into the viewing gallery and threw hundreds of $1 bills down onto the trading floor.
And what happened?
The traders totally broke their professional decorum. These elite financial professionals literally scrambled on the floor on their hands and knees, fighting over $1 bills. Hoffman revealed the underlying greed of the institution just by playing a prank.
Or consider the clandestine insurgent rebel clown army, or CIRCA, during the G8 summits.
Oh, the rebel clowns.
Yes. Imagine the scene. You have heavily armored, militarized riot police standing in a phalanx, fully expecting a violent clash. There are pumps full of adrenaline. Instead, activists dressed as literal clowns walk up and enthusiastically try to play rock, paper, scissors with them. Or they pull out pink feather dusters and start polishing the riot shields.
I mean, there was that time in Leeds where the rebel clowns enthusiastically marched into a military recruitment center trying to enlist while wearing spaghetti colanders on their heads.
Yes.
The recruitment center had to literally shut down for the day because they had no bureaucratic procedure, no HR script for turning away highly motivated, entirely absurd clowns. By being completely ridiculous, you deny the system the hostile attribution bias it desperately wants. A riot cop knows exactly how to handle a thrown rock. They have no idea what to do with a feather duster.
This strategy relies on what technicians call the binary pacing engine. It works by blending two very different tones. It takes the bureaucratic farce of a Douglas Adams novel, pointing out how silly and arbitrary the rules are, and pairs it with the fatalistic trauma of a Kurt Vonnegut novel, acknowledging the very real harm the system causes. The activists call this synthesis kawaii horror.
Kawaii horror, cute horror. Why does pairing cuteness with systemic critique
Cute
work
horror.
so well?
That's my shit.
Because you're using cute, disarming, high-trust visuals as a Trojan horse. When an institutional enforcer sees a clown or a feather duster, their biological defenses lower. They literally can't justify using force. And once those institutional defenses are down, you deliver the deep systemic critique. It
I still need
bypasses
a
the iron cage
thumbnail.
of professionalism entirely.
It's brilliant. It's hardcore systemic strategy disguised as whimsy. It proves that the system is entirely reliant on our willingness to take it seriously.
This raises an important question, though. How do we contextualize this on a personal level? The doctrine suggests using a mental framework called the long zoom.
The long zoom.
Yes, when you are caught in the daily grind, the economic terror, the office
I have an
politics, the
idea.
algorithmic outrage, it feels all-encompassing. But when you use the long zoom, you look at our tiny temporary societal ant farm from a cosmic multi-century perspective.
Zooming way out.
Way out. From that vantage point, the claustrophobia of the
I
system
can't
just
see.
vanishes.
I'm not looking
You
at chat
realize
a
that
lot.
the rules of decorum, the burden of proof, the
Trying to
institutional
finish this
tagging,
article.
they're all just games we agreed to play. The door to our societal prison was never actually locked.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We started today by looking at AI gaslighting and the liar's dividend and how the burden of proof is being weaponized against truth tellers. We explored the biology of belief, uncovering how terrified we are of social stigma and how institutions use that fear to silence dissent.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We broke down the three-layered prism, showing how professionalism and decorum are often just an iron cage designed to keep us politely extracting wealth for the top. And it all culminates in the liberating, joyful power of rebel clowns in serious play. The goal of this deep dive isn't just to explain the invisible architecture, it's to help you reclaim your cognitive bandwidth, to recognize the scripts you are being forced to read at work and in your community, and to actively refuse the apathy curated by the system.
We've learned that the agreement of sameness requires your daily participation to survive. The system only works because we all wake up every day and agree to pretend the invisible bars are real.
Hey, watch this.
Garfinkel proved that all it takes to shatter reality is...
Oh, hey, our listener wants to join in. What's up?
Is my microphone on? Oh, damn, my mic's not on. Why not?
Yes, your mic is absolutely on, and we are so glad you chimed in right at the perfect moment.
No worries at all. And honestly, that little hiccup is actually a perfect example of what we're talking about.
What's fascinating here is that tiny moment of tech confusion, that little bit of unexpected friction, is exactly what we need.
Yeah, that unexpected variable, because the system we've been describing.
I'm with you now. I'm with you
On
now.
the smooth,
But
frictionless
I got a
flow
question.
of compliance.
And even a momentary glitch in the communication protocol, like thinking your mic is off, that disrupts the prevailing script.
It forces a moment of middle bandwidth where you are suddenly present and not just listening to the hum of the system.
And that's the vulnerability. The system only works if the communication is seamless and predictable.
It's why they manufacture exhaustion, so you're too tired to even check if the mic is on, right? You just submit to the flow.
Precisely. But Garfinkel proved that all it takes to shatter reality is to act like a polite stranger in your own home.
That's the key. So I want to leave you with this thought, listener.
What is your personal breaching experiment?
What perfectly harmless, utterly unscripted, completely absurd action can you take tomorrow in your office?
Or in your neighborhood to prove to yourself that the iron cage is just an illusion?
If the prison is just a hologram of steel bars, maybe it's time to just walk right through it.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time. You know, there's this almost universal assumption that we all just kind of walk around with, and it's this idea that if you have the receipt, you win the argument.
Right, like physical proof is the ultimate trump card.
Exactly. I mean, think about returning a broken blender to a store. You walk up, you slide that crumpled piece of paper across the counter, the cashier looks at the date, checks the item, and boom, transaction reversed.
Yeah, the debate is just over.
It is. It's this undeniable anchor for reality. You know, there is this almost universal assumption that we all just kind of walk around with, and it's this idea that if you have the receipt, you win the argument.
Right? Like physical proof is the ultimate trump card.
Exactly. I mean, think about returning a broken blender to a store. You walk up, you slide that crumpled piece of paper across the counter, the cashier looks at the date.
Whoa, did someone just break the fourth wall? Let's hear it.
Yo, I'm the guy who wrote that thing.
Oh my goodness. Wait,
Stop the tick.
you are kidding me right now.
Our special listener is the master salvager.
The actual author of these dossiers.
That is incredible. Welcome.
Thank you so much for listening.
What an absolute honor.
We were just about to describe this
That's
terrifying
hilarious.
scenario.
The one where you bring the receipt.
Yeah, and the cashier says it's blank.
And we were just starting to explain why that happens
So we were going to talk about the Cassandra algorithm.
and how source derogation works.
But since we have the architect right here with us, the master salvager, what does that feel like?
To write a forensic audit like the one in your sources,
And present it with all the receipts attached.
and then just watch the world dismiss it
Because they just look right through you.
or dismiss you as an NPC.
That moment, yep, go on.
Though they didn't, not everybody looked right through me. I'm actually live streaming right now, and I think I have like 100 people watching, maybe a little less. Oh, 200 people. Holy crap.
That is a phenomenal interjection.
Thank you for the correction.
That absolutely changes the energy in the room.
It does. We were talking about feeling isolated.
Yeah, that absolute definition of the Cassandra protocol.
The feeling that you are
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, most people don't get the opportunity like I do.
You are absolutely right.
Okay, let's unpack this.
That is the critical point right there.
Because what you're describing is the escape route.
Most people are conditioned to enforce the norms.
They become those unpaid sentinels,
They demand decorum and professionalism.
acting as deputies for the system.
And that's exactly what
Oh, go for it.
Well, you're right. Most of the people in my audience have to deal with people like that, which is why they might feel like Cassandra.
you've hit on the core tragedy, actually.
Okay, let's unpack this.
That feeling is precisely the systemic goal.
You're pointing out the real utility of the Cassandra algorithm.
It's not just to silence the architects of truth, like yourself,
It's to make everyone else feel that exact emotional cost.
that intense sense of isolation and burnout.
The documents call that the Viper burnout.
Because when people feel that isolation, they retreat.
They enter that state the sources call the sedation prison.
And they lose the middle bandwidth for processing nuance.
They fall back on those scripted NPC lines.
So your audience is feeling that existential anxiety,
They are experiencing the Cassandra effect daily.
which is why the community you build is so critical.
It's not just a chat room, it's a lifeline against that isolation.
Because the system relies on isolation.
The rest wants you to feel like you are the only one.
But the very act of live streaming, of building that audience,
That is what the documents call the phalanx.
it's that high trust human to human network.
It means you are not carrying the weight alone.
That is exactly how you shatter the isolation.
So let's talk about the mechanics of why people look right through you.
Despite the 100 people watching, there's still a risk for others.
And that's the mechanics of the Cassandra protocol we need to discuss.
The moment where others look at the truth and call it blank.
But we can approach this with your success in mind.
We can focus on how to grow the phalanx, how to break the isolation.
That is the path out of the sedation prison.
So let's return to the terrifying scenario we mentioned earlier.
The one where you bring the receipt to the cashier.
And the cashier says it's blank.
Right, you point to the ink, you read the numbers out loud.
And then the person standing in line behind you taps your shoulder and says, yeah, that paper's completely blank.
But because you have your phalanx, those 100 people,
They're all watching the live stream on their phones.
and they all chime in, no, we see it, the ink is there.
Suddenly, you aren't questioning your own sanity.
You are standing in public, demonstrating the reality glitch to others.
Welcome to the deep dive. We are unpacking your incredibly fascinating, honestly undeniably dystopian.
But ultimately empowering stack of dossiers.
It truly is a massive amount of material to wrap your head around.
It is, and we are going to track a journey today that begins with that exhaustion we described.
And then it evolves into part one of this massive survival guide the source is called the Serious Play series.
And at the absolute center of all this material is an architectural framework the authors call the vertical war.
Right, the vertical war. Let's get into that.
So the core premise here is just a complete reframing of how we view conflict.
The document suggests that society isn't actually fighting a horizontal battle.
Like left versus right.
Exactly. It's not left versus right or neighbor versus neighbor.
That horizontal friction is described in the text as a deliberate distraction.
The real conflict is vertical.
It's a structural war between what the texts call the rust.
The rust.
Yeah, which represents entrenched legacy institutional power.
And the gears, which is the everyday populace.
Now, I need to pause right here and make something crystal clear before we go any further.
The documents we're unpacking today, they touch on some highly charged political concepts.
And they look at modern governments through a very, very sharp lens.
Very sharp.
But we are completely impartial here. We are taking absolutely no sides, left or right.
Our mission today is simply to explore the fascinating mechanics laid out in these texts.
Because the systemic architecture they describe is just mind-bending.
It really changes how you look at the daily news cycle. I mean, completely.
If you've ever felt just physically exhausted by the state of the world.
Or if you've ever presented an undeniable fact to someone only to be treated like you're out of your mind.
Which happens all the time now.
All the time. Well, the sources suggest that exhaustion is not a personal failing.
What you're experiencing is a highly engineered environment the texts call the three-layered prison.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start at the foundation.
Let's say a gear, an everyday person, actually wakes up, looks at the system, and finds undeniable proof of a massive flaw.
They have the receipt.
They have the receipt. Why doesn't that undeniable proof change minds anymore?
Well, the sources labor the system's first line of defense, the Cassandra algorithm.
And for a bit of context here, Cassandra is a figure from Greek mythology.
Right, the prophet.
Yeah, she was given the gift of prophecy, but cursed to never, ever be believed.
She stood there and explicitly warned everyone about the Trojan horse.
And the entire city just called her a madwoman.
Exactly. And what these dossiers argue is that the modern informational system has industrialized Cassandra's curse.
Because, decades ago, if an institution didn't like a piece of information, they would just aggressively censor it.
They just delete the data.
Right, but we know that doesn't work anymore.
No, if you try to delete a photo off the internet today, millions of people will share it.
The Streisand effect.
Precisely. Censorship in the digital age is just too loud.
So the strategy evolved into a form of cognitive warfare called source derogation.
Source derogation.
Yeah. Instead of blocking the message, the system attacks the messenger.
They slap a socially devalued label on the person bringing the receipt.
Like calling them fringe.
Fringe, radical, conspiracy theorist, exactly.
Wait, so you're saying it's not actually about debating the data at all?
It's just like middle school peer pressure weaponized on a global scale.
That is exactly the mechanism. It weaponizes our biology.
Humans are herd animals, Our survival used to depend on staying in the tribe.
Right.
So when the institution tags the messenger with a toxic label, they don't have to disprove the data.
They just trigger the public's biological fear of social exile.
Oh, wow. So the crowd looks at the whistleblower and subconsciously realizes,
hey, if I agree with that person, the system is going to apply that toxic label to me too.
So
art.
To protect
This
their
is
own
art,
social
guys.
standing, the public engages in
This
what
is
the
how you
text
do
calls
art.
identity protective cognition.
Yes, they police themselves.
The crowd actively rejects the data, no matter how real
I'm
it is.
art.
Simply
I am
to
an
protect
art.
their place in the herd.
The
I'm not-
institution doesn't have to silence you. Your own neighbors will do it for you.
I have to push back on this, though. I mean, I understand peer pressure.
I am art.
But what if the proof is undeniably physical?
I'm not talking about a spreadsheet or a wild theory. What if I have a video?
Or endo recording?
Yeah, physical evidence is an unbreakable anchor.
You can't just call a high-definition video fringe. People have eyes.
And that raises the most terrifying question in the entire Cassandra protocol.
How does the Rust neutralize physical reality?
How do they?
They use a legal and sociological...
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
With their power.
Exactly. Yes, with their power.
Okay, let's unpack this. That is the precise answer.
Stigmatization is entirely contingent on access to power.
That's the critical revelation in the model you've created.
And this is where the vertical nature of the war comes into play.
Because the stigmatization must be executed from the top down.
It cannot be generated from the bottom up.
The rest controls the central banks of symbolic capital.
They dictate which modes of expression are valid or professional.
And that's how they neutralize physical reality itself.
They use a sociological countermeasure known as the liar's dividend.
And the mechanism here is brilliant in a very, very dark way.
What's fascinating here is that the mere public awareness that AI and deepfakes exist.
Well, that gives bad actors structural, plausible deniability.
Oh, wow. Wait, let me make sure I'm getting this.
You don't even need to manufacture a fake video to trick people.
Nope.
You just have to constantly remind the public that fake videos can be made.
That is the dividend, based on the power they hold.
Just the specter of artificial intelligence is enough to shatter reality.
When you bring that unedited, completely real video to the public square.
The institution doesn't have to prove it's fake.
They just casually suggest it might be AI.
Exactly. And instantly, the burden of proof flips.
The power dynamic you just mentioned makes this possible.
So instead of the corrupt official having to explain their actions on tape,
The whistleblower now has to prove the tape is real.
which takes time, and more importantly, it takes incredibly expensive forensic experts.
The sources call this an economic terror inflicted on whistleblowers.
Economic terror, that is a heavy term.
It is because by forcing you to mathematically authenticate reality,
They effectively price everyday citizens out of demanding accountability,
and this is particularly hard for those without a phalanx.
like your audience who are feeling that Cassandra effect daily.
The dossier provides some truly chilling real-world case studies of this in action.
Take the Gabon crisis in 2018.
For some context, the president of Gabon had been missing from the public eye for months.
Right, and rumors were just swirling that he was dead.
So the government released a video of him giving a New Year's address.
A completely authentic, real video.
Completely real, but his political opponents immediately went on the offensive.
And claimed the video was a deepfake.
They pointed to his stiff posture, the way he blinked.
Yeah, and because the public knew deepfakes existed, they believed the opponents.
The dismissal of that real video sparked an actual military coup.
The military literally cited the fake video as proof the government was lying.
A physical geopolitical crisis triggered not by a deepfake, but by the mere accusation of one.
It's wild. Or look at the corporate world.
There's a case in the documents regarding a civil lawsuit against Tesla.
Lawyers literally tried to argue that Elon Musk shouldn't be forced to sit for a deposition.
Regarding video footage from 2016 where he made specific safety claims.
And what was the basis of their argument?
Their argument was that because Musk's a famous public figure, he is a frequent target for deepfakes.
Therefore, even though the 2016 video was widely known and totally authenticated,
they argued he shouldn't be held accountable for it because it could theoretically be manipulated.
Oh man. The judge in that case flatly rejected the argument.
Actually calling it deeply troubling.
But it reveals the emerging legal playbook. It's creating a reverse CSI effect.
A reverse CSI effect. What does that mean exactly?
Well, years ago, juries would see video evidence and treat it as the gospel truth.
Seeing was believing.
Exactly. But now we are entering an era where juries are proactively doubting perfectly authentic video.
Because they assume by default that it could be manipulated.
So if I bring the receipt, they label me crazy.
If I bring a video of the receipt, they say it's a deepfake.
Let's say I'm incredibly stubborn. I refuse to back down.
Well, if the system can't make you look crazy, they just make you tired.
They lock you in what the documents call the sedation prison.
Which brings us to part 1 of the Serious Play series.
And I want you, the listener, to picture a scenario right now.
Think about the last time you were lying in bed at 3 a.m.
The room is completely dark except for that harsh glow of your phone.
We've all been there.
You know you need to sleep. You know the news you are scrolling through is making you miserable.
But your thumb just keeps swiping. The endless scroll.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that, because here's where it gets really interesting.
The sources argue that doom scrolling isn't just a lack of personal discipline.
It is a highly engineered state they call passive algorithmic content, or PAC.
TPAC, right?
And it functions as a literal neurological sedative.
The math behind this is cold and explicit.
The algorithms that power these feeds, they leverage our innate evolutionary negativity bias.
Because we are hardwired to pay attention to threats.
Exactly. By constantly bombarding you with outrage, fear, and catastrophe.
The feed spikes your anxiety.
But your brain cannot sustain a state of high alert indefinitely. It's exhausting.
Right, that constant bombardment exhausts your working memory.
It overloads the system.
Exactly. When you are actively solving a puzzle or making a conscious decision.
Your brain is using what neuroscientists call the task-positive network.
You are in the driver's seat, okay?
But when that system gets overloaded by algorithmic fear, it shuts down to protect itself.
Your brain defaults to a screensaver mode, basically. The default mode network.
And this network is associated with passive rumination.
You aren't processing or evaluating information anymore.
You're just a vessel receiving it, yeah.
I love the analogy the author uses here.
The exhaustion is a diagnostic metric in the vertical war.
That's right. It's proof that the system is trying to tire you out.
So what does this all mean?
It means that the path out is serious play.
It's the disciplined refusal to be bored.
And that refusal is exactly what fuels the phalanx you built.
That act of building community with those 100 people you mentioned.
We'll be diving into the architecture of serious play next time.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience.
It was a true honor, Master Salvager.
We'll catch you in the next one.
So funny. I'm having too much fun with this. Ba ba ba. I'll put something else on in a second. I'm having some fun here. You'll see. Oh yeah. Wait. Boom. The fuck? I want yellow. Wait, what the fuck? There we go. What the heck? Oh, I get what's happening. I can't do that. I'm so focused. Almost done. Where's my CS Rebel? I could use this too. I have way too much fun with this shit. This is the ADHD hyperfocus. Ooh. I'm like, how many things can I fit in here? I just feel like I need one more thing. I don't know why. It's like an itch. I think it's this. I'm like, oh. Nice. Okay. This is Cyberpunk. I'm done. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, maybe I'm not done. Am I psycho? Maybe. I think this kind of art's cool. I'll show. Yeah, I'm a psycho. I wonder how big this file is going to be. I've not been looking at chat at all. Good, no one's talking. How do I have like 300 people here and no one's chatting? I guess this is interesting. Damn, 5 megabytes. Where's my article? Hell yeah, it looks sick. And I did it. We did it. We did it. Hooray. Blah, 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 blah. It's Dora. Mega, mega, mega. Ready, mega, 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 mega. Initiate this shit. Feel the beat, I'm gonna lose control. Feel the beat, I'm gonna lose control. Oh, it doesn't fit there. The fuck? Why does it do that? Why doesn't it go to the other side? I wonder if that'll do it. Oh shit. Whatever. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, and I forgot one more thing. Why is that so low quality? Yeah, it's better small, huh? Finally. It's complete. It is complete. Feel the beat, I'm gonna lose control. 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 Bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum. Do, 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 do. I'm having too much fun. Blah 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 blah. Turn on that hardware acceleration. Make those lines look prettier. Okay, back to work. Oh shit, guys, pay attention. I was loading this. I wonder if it's any good.
You've survived the engineered exhaustion of the algorithmic feed. You've shaken off the apathy and dug through the noise, and you finally pull a verifiable piece of reality to the surface. You hold the receipt. You bring this proof back to your friends, your family, or your coworkers. You expect a wake-up call. Instead, you get blank stares. People get defensive. They reject the data without looking. In 1847, a physician named Ignaz Semmelweis proved that healthcare workers washing their hands drastically reduced maternal mortality rates. He had the empirical evidence, yet the medical establishment responded with institutional ridicule. They threw him into an asylum for offending their professional decorum. This is the Cassandra algorithm. Instead of debating your facts, institutional power neutralizes you by preemptively applying a socially radioactive label. They tag you as fringe, a conspiracy theorist, or a radical. This mechanism is efficient because it is self-policing. The
yeah.
institution doesn't need to censor the truth if it can condition society to view the truth teller as a pariah, turning regular citizens into unpaid sentinels guarding the boundaries of their own prison. The modern digital landscape has upgraded this snare to nullify physical evidence using a psychological exploit called the liar's dividend. The liar's dividend relies on the public's general awareness of deepfakes and generative AI. It provides powerful figures with a permanent shield of plausible
Damn, this is some
deniability,
crazy
allowing
animation.
them to instantly dismiss
I'm
authentic,
impressed.
damaging evidence as synthetic fabrications. During a 2023 wrongful death lawsuit, lawyers attempted to evade liability by refusing to authenticate recorded statements made by CEO Elon Musk. They argued that because Musk is a public figure, the court could not assume the video footage was real. Political actors use this globally. During a crisis in Gabon, an unedited video of the president was released to project stability. Opponents seized on his stilted movements to declare the video a deepfake. The resulting epistemic confusion served as direct justification for an attempted military coup. The system doesn't have to generate fake news. By merely planting the suggestion of AI manipulation, they reverse
I don't know
the
how many
burden of
times I
proof.
gotta repeat it,
They
guys.
force truth tellers to hire expensive forensic experts just to prove reality is real, effectively pricing accountability
It
out
doesn't
of the
even
justice
have
system.
to be a psyop.
The
It's
architecture
literally
of this
just
control
marketing.
relies on the jailer's paradox. An extractive system doesn't need physical bars if it
That's
can
what I'm
successfully
saying.
curate apathy and limit the horizon of human imagination. The system relies on agreements of sameness. It expects you to perform the standard script, fighting back with predictable outrage and engaging in endless arguments over decorum. This triggers identity protective cognition. When facts contradict a group's narrative, the brain registers a threat to social survival,
This
causing
is
an
a really
automatic
good
shutdown.
video.
Fighting this cognitive shield with brute force causes Viper burnout. The Cassandra expends all energy screaming, while the system maintains the status quo. Screaming the truth louder only validates the institution's script that you are a radical. It ensures your isolation. To bypass this firewall, you must abandon the predictable script of outrage entirely. If brute force facts trigger the firewall, the only way to breach the system is through an exploit called serious play.
Yes.
Serious play is strategy disguised as whimsy. It is the absolute discipline of refusing to be bored by the system's predictability or confined by its curated apathy. To move past the horizon of the horizontal war, you execute the long zoom. The long zoom works by pulling your perspective out to a structural distance. From this multi-century vantage point, the seemingly invincible maze of the institutional prison is revealed to be a finite, fragile construct.
Yes.
By shifting your perspective to the multi-century scale, the lethal despair of systemic control is replaced by the realization that you are looking at a manageable architecture. You can operationalize this shift through tactical frivolity. By intentionally violating the unwritten rules of professional decorum, a rebel forces a cognitive reset in their environment. Historical resistance groups, like the rebel clowns of Circa, used absurd joy to disrupt behavioral matrices.
That's funny.
Their whimsy created a breach that rigid, militarized systems had no pre-written script to counter. This works because joy creates cognitive dissonance. The aesthetic signals safety, allowing the underlying message to slip past the identity protective cognition firewall without
yeah.
triggering a defensive response. This directly dismantles the Cassandra algorithm. Playfulness removes the heavy social penalty of being the truth teller. It makes the act of listening attractive rather than exhausting, lowering the activation energy required for others to join you.
This is dope.
Refusing to validate the system's predictability breaks the agreement of sameness. It proves that the horizontal pressure of the tribe only works if everyone agrees to keep looking down, making the act of joining a high-trust network a viable, collaborative choice.
Hell yeah. Dude, freaking AI just made that. That was sick. Does anybody here want to interact with the AI? I can literally have a conversation with it about this thing. Nobody? Y'all quiet.
Imagine someone burns down your house. Like you actually catch them on video holding the match, just laughing about it.
Right, dead to rights.
Exactly. You take that video to court, feeling completely vindicated, but the arsonist just looks at the judge, shrugs, and says, oh, that's an AI deepfake.
And suddenly you're the one on trial.
Yes. Instead of locking the arsonist up, the judge turns to you and says, you now need to spend, I don't know, $1 million on digital forensics to mathematically prove the video is real. Sounds absolutely insane, right? But it is happening right now at the highest levels of our society.
It really is. It completely flips the baseline of reality. We're so used to thinking of captivity or control in very physical, tangible terms, like iron bars, concrete walls, steel doors.
Yeah, the classic prison.
Exactly. But the systems governing us today, they don't primarily rely on physical force anymore. They rely on a psychological cage. They hack our biology, they overwhelm our cognitive bandwidth, and they literally weaponize our basic social manners against us.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled you're here. Today we're exploring the invisible architecture of systemic control. The modern epistemic crisis, which, by the way, is really just a fancy way of saying the complete collapse of shared reality.
Perfectly put.
And most importantly, we're looking at how you can break free from it. We've got a massive, really dense stack of sources today. We're talking sociological research, cybersecurity doctrines, and tactical activism manuals.
It's a heavy stack for sure.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is to decode exactly how reality is being weaponized against you, the public, and to reveal the surprisingly joyful way you can actually fight back. So, okay, let's unpack this because this topic completely flipped my understanding of how society operates.
Oh, I mean, it fundamentally changes how you view your daily interactions. And to really understand how control works today, we have to start by looking at the most modern tool of confusion in the system.
I'm going to yell at people for not talking.
Artificial intelligence.
Right.
But not in the way most people think.
Yeah, because everyone is terrified of, like, generative AI making fake things look real. You know, the fake video of a politician saying something completely
How long have I been
crazy.
streaming?
Right, the actual deepfakes.
Exactly. But the research points to something far more insidious called
anyone
the
know?
liar's dividend. This is a term coined by researchers Chesney and
3
Sickles.
hours.
The real danger
Oh.
isn't just the actual deepfakes. The danger is
I've
that
been
bad
streaming
actors
3
can now
hours.
look at completely real, authentic evidence, like
my
a
God.
whistleblower's leaked audio or a dash cam video, and just wave their hands and say, oh, that's AI generated.
Exactly. And this introduces what the researchers call the truth teller's tax.
Ooh, the truth teller's tax.
Yeah. By simply claiming a real video is a deepfake, the bad actor shifts the entire burden of proof onto the whistleblower, the journalist, or even just an average citizen. You go from being the victim presenting evidence to being the suspect who has to defend their evidence.
Which is wild.
It is. Suddenly, you have to hire expensive digital forensic experts to prove your reality. It completely prices accountability out of the justice system. We're actually seeing the rise of the reverse CSI effect in courtrooms right now.
Wait, the reverse CSI effect?
Yeah, where juries are now assuming that perfectly real, authentic evidence is fake simply because they know AI exists in the world.
It's exactly like that arsonist analogy. Like the arsonist blames a dragon for the fire, and suddenly you have to spend all your time and money proving that dragons don't exist.
While they just walk free.
Exactly. And while you're exhausting yourself doing that, the arsonist just walks away.
That is a perfect way to visualize the mechanics of it. And I mean, we're seeing this tactic used globally across all spectrums. And listener, just a quick note as we go through these examples, whether we're talking about an international president or, say, a domestic political event like the January 6th defendants, our goal today isn't to take any political side.
Right. We have to be clear about that.
We really do. We are impartially looking at the source data to show you the mechanics of how these tactics work across the board, completely neutrally.
Absolutely. We are just looking at the machinery here. Take the 2018 crisis in Gabon, for example. The president, Ali Bongo, had been out of the public eye due to a stroke. So to prove he was okay and still in charge, the government released a real video address.
But he didn't look quite right.
Exactly. Because of his illness, his face looked a bit stiff. Political opponents immediately seized on the liar's dividend. They claimed it was a deepfake cover-up. And here is the wild part. That single, completely baseless claim of AI manipulation sparked an actual military coup.
Wow.
Yeah. Digital forensics later proved the video was 100% authentic, but, the damage was already done.
And we saw the exact same mechanism deployed in India, in the state of Tamil Nadu, back in 2023. There was this massive, totally authentic audio leak that captured a finance minister detailing a $3.6 billion corruption scandal.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B. The minister instantly went to the press, cited those viral AI songs of pop stars like Drake that were going around at the
I'm
time,
streaming to
and just
Facebook
claimed
too,
his
aren't I?
voice was machine generated.
Unbelievable.
And it worked. The entire media cycle derailed. Instead of investigating the missing billions, reporters engaged in a highly technical forensic debate about audio compression, and the $3.6 billion scandal was just completely dismissed by the public.
And it's not just politics either. It is hitting corporate law right now. There was a civil lawsuit against Tesla regarding their autopilot software.
Yeah.
The plaintiffs brought in a real, completely unedited 2016 video of Elon Musk making safety claims.
Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah, and Tesla's lawyers literally argued that because Musk is a public figure, he
One
has,
viewer.
and I'm quoting the actual legal defense here, meme lord immunity.
Meme lord immunity. You can't make this up.
They actually put that in a legal brief. They argued that because he's a frequent target for deepfakes online, he shouldn't have to testify about statements he made on video because any video of him could be fake.
Did the judge buy it?
No, thankfully. The judge, Yvette Pennypacker,
Why is it doing
completely rejected
720p?
it and
It's
called the
supposed to be
argument deeply troubling.
1080.
But, think about the structural danger there. If a multi-billion-dollar
Wonder if
corporation
YouTube's
can
doing
use
it
the
right.
mere existence of AI as a legal shield, what happens to the average person?
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychological strategy. The ultimate goal of the liar's dividend isn't actually to convince you of a specific alternative lie.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they don't need you to believe a different story. The goal is to foster what psychologists call schema collapse.
Okay, let's break that down
That
for the
looks
listener.
better.
What does schema collapse actually feel like?
It feels like profound exhaustion. A schema is basically your brain's framework for understanding reality. When bad actors constantly flood the zone with claims that real things are fake and fake things are real, you experience a state where the cognitive labor required to verify basic reality just becomes too much.
You just burn out.
Exactly. You give up. You embrace a baseline assumption that absolutely nothing can be trusted. And when the public assumes everything is a lie, entrenched institutions are suddenly allowed to operate with absolute impunity. Because if nothing is true, nobody can be held accountable.
Okay, I understand the strategy, but I have to ask, if this tactic is so blatantly obvious, why does the public buy into it? Why do we let them get away with shifting the burden of proof?
Because the system weaponizes our own biology against us. To understand why we reject obvious truths, we really have to look at the Semmelweis reflex.
Ah, the story of Ignaz Semmelweis. It is so tragic.
It really is.
He was a 19th century doctor in Vienna who figured out that if doctors
Oh,
simply washed
it
their
gets
hands
split
between
it up,
performing
okay.
autopsies and delivering babies, maternal mortality rates plummeted. He had the empirical proof. The receipts were flawless.
Okay, I can
But the
vibe
medical
with that.
establishment was so threatened by the idea that their unwashed hands were killing patients, it threatened their professional ego and their status, that they just refused to look at the data. They literally threw him into an insane asylum where he was beaten and died.
Yes. And the Semmelweis reflex is exactly that. The biological tendency to instinctively reject empirical evidence if it contradicts your pre-existing worldview or threatens your status. Modern psychology expands on this with Ziva Kunda's concept of motivated reasoning
Offline.
and Dan Kahan's identity protective cognition.
Right.
When you are confronted with undeniable facts that threaten the social group you belong to,
Why?
your brain literally goes into defense mode.
Hold on, I struggle to buy that. We are told our whole lives that critical thinking, education, and a high intelligence protect us from propaganda. Are you seriously telling me that smart people are actually more easily manipulated by this?
That is exactly what the clinical data shows, and it is a really hard pill to swallow. Intelligence is not a cure for evidence rejection.
Yeah.
It's just a more sophisticated weapon for rationalization.
Oh.
I remember.
If you give highly analytical people data that contradicts their political or social identity, they don't change their minds. They use their intellect to cherry-pick the data, find methodological flaws, and build incredibly complex excuses to explain away the truth. They just have a bigger vocabulary to defend their bias.
And this leads to what the researchers call expressive rationality, right?
Exactly.
Because for the average person, accepting a truth that
I
makes
get
their
like no
social group
viewers from these
angry
other
carries a
websites.
terrifying biological threat, the threat of being socially ostracized. The sources point out that our brains literally process social exclusion using the exact same neural pathways as physical pain.
Precisely. To your brain, being kicked out of your tribe is essentially a death sentence. So if accepting a fact means you might be cast out of your community, your brain decides the fact is the enemy. You avoid the physical pain of cognitive dissonance by engaging in what's called source derogation.
Source derogation. So basically, they don't attack your argument. They just label you crazy or difficult to work with so nobody else will listen to you.
Exactly. You attack the messenger. And institutions know this biological loophole, so they weaponize it on a massive scale through institutional social tagging.
How does that work?
Well, the entrenched power centers, the rust of society, they don't need to debate the facts brought by the working class or the whistleblowers, the gears. The rust just socially tags the truth teller as crazy, fringe, or unprofessional.
Unprofessional. That word does a lot of heavy lifting.
It does. And the general public, who are terrified of being ostracized themselves, they police themselves and ignore the truth teller. The system doesn't even have to silence you. They just make it socially toxic for anyone to listen to you.
Think about your own office, listener. Have you ever been in a situation where you pointed out a massive flaw in a project, and instead of addressing the flaw, management pulled you aside and said you weren't being a team player?
We've all been there.
That brings us directly to how this invisible prison operates in our everyday lives. This isn't just happening in high-level geopolitics or billion-dollar lawsuits. This is the fundamental structure of our daily grind, enforced by the rules of polite society.
Yeah, sociological doctrine refers to this as the vertical war. It's the top-down enforcement of compliance, and it's maintained through what they call a three-layered prison.
Let's bring those layers down to earth for a second. Layer 1 is economic terror. It's the daily grind, the inflation, the medical debt. The system keeps you so consumed with basic survival that you have no bandwidth left to resist. You can't protest if you can't pay rent.
Exactly, you're just surviving.
And layer 2 is the great distraction. This is the horizontal culture war. The algorithmic outrage feed that keeps citizens fighting each other over trivial issues instead of looking up at the people extracting the wealth.
And layer 3 is the ultimate psychological containment. Learned helplessness. This is curated apathy. You become convinced that the system is an immovable law of nature, like gravity. And the bars of this third layer are built out of something sociologists DiMaggio and Powell called institutional isomorphism, or the iron cage.
Institutional isomorphism, let's translate that. That essentially means organizations relentlessly copying each other to appear legitimate.
Right, exactly. Think about how every corporate HR department starts to sound exactly the same, using the exact same buzzwords. They compress human behavior into a very narrow, homogenized standard of acceptance.
All right, I'm gonna log out. I might log
Professionalism
back
becomes a
in to play
disciplinary
some
leash.
games.
The sources talk about these honeypot
Or I
audits.
might do the second
Companies will
article.
put up all these
Get it done
progressive posters
early.
saying, bring your
Why
whole
not?
self to work.
But it's a trap.
It's a total trap. If you actually bring your whole self,
I need
and
to
that
get off
self
my
is a
butt, though,
valid
and walk
structural
around.
critique of how the company exploits
Thanks
people,
for